Clayton O'Gorman, that rings a bell. I can't think where. Are you local, are you, Clayton?
From Chester.
So what dragged you down this neck of the woods?
Girlfriend.
You see he's getting cold.
You what?
You see he's getting cold.
We'll just take some details. Alright.
No?
I'm going to search and then I'm going to give you a copy of the search record. Do you understand?
No.
Right, have you got anything on you shouldn't have before searcher?
Neil, help me! Neil, help me, Neil! Neil, just 2 minutes, man! 2 minutes, Neil, help me! Help me! Neil, help me! Help me, Neil! Please! Stay back! Neil! Please, Neil! Neil! Please, Neil! Stay where you are! Neil, give us a hand! Neil, please! Neil! Neil, help me! Neil, help me! Neil, help me! Neil, help me now!
Say out for assistance. Milltown Road. XA Alpha, assistance, Milltown Road.
Please, that's the back!
Nice one, Jason. X-ray Alpha, can we have assistance? Milltown Road.
Assistance to X-ray Alpha, Milltown Road, Northwest Knowledge.
Give me a hand.
No.
Give me a hand. Give me your hand. No! Just get a hand. No!
Just get a cuff on it. He's not going in.
Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Trash Talk. I am your host Richard Lewis. That's one of my favourite clips on the internet. Why didn't Neil help him, Sam?
Not this time.
He's obviously helped him in the past. Neil! Neil! Help me, Neil! Please, Neil, just 2 minutes, man!
No. Neil! You're squirming.
Actually, very reminiscent of when I got banned by Reddit, that was. But, help me, Monte Cristo! Just 2 posts, man. Help me! Help me!
Tweet, please!
just 1 tweet, man. Anyway. So yeah, things have been happening in esports. I'm still out here in San Francisco. It's not as fucking baking hot today, thankfully, as it was yesterday. I'm going to be heading out and doing some stuff in the town. I was at a esports conference, which some of you guys watched. It was pretty interesting. We had lots of topics of discussion brought up. There was some very interesting stuff. I mean, like, I was mainly talking about esports journalism, where I managed to get in a few burns, of course, to people that don't understand it, and about regulation in esports, where I also got a few digs in. But it was a good conference. It brought a lot of people together that I think will probably, for good or ill, shape the direction of esports over the next few years. But without any further ado, I think we should do a rundown of what's been happening news-wise. Now, I haven't been keeping up with it because technically I'm unemployed. But just in CSGO, just some quick stuff. Obviously, we saw that Dignitas, they added Schneider, so they've moved away from an old Danish lineup. And they dropped Nico, who's been kind of the weak link in the team for such a long period of time. That actually it's sort of amazing that they've decided to do it now, just as we enter into a period where they've actually failed to qualify for all these big tournaments. Might have been better if you were going to do it a lot sooner. Anyway, if you're a Dignitas fan, you might have some opinions about that, especially because Odie didn't even fucking mention it when he was on the last show. What a cunt. Right, he could have hinted or something, So there's that. What else? I mean, I guess the big thing I want to talk about. One of the big things I want to talk about is obviously the Gaming Paradise event. I cannot fucking believe this. Like, I can't believe it's 2015 and this shit's still happening, Sam. So just to put it, give you a quick rundown on what happened. The fucking They all go to this event in Slovenia just before Dubai. It's run by people that have never ran a LAN of this kind of size or stature or anything before. The event starts by the top end PCs that are promised that can definitely run CS:GO at 1,000,000 FPS or whatever required. They're allegedly all put into a car, and the guy driving it just goes, "Hang on a minute, mate, you can sell these, but." And he's just fucked off over the green hills and far away. Like, just drove off them. Like, yeah, that's what the owner is saying happened. Nobody buys it. Nobody believes it. I think it's absolute bullshit. I don't think they ever had PCs that were good enough to run the game. Anyway, so throughout the tournament, people have got to play with like 60 FPS. There's crashes, all sorts of crazy shit going on. Then you've got the fact that all the players had their passports seized at one point because the 17,000 euros in hotel fees and food fees hadn't been paid by anyone. And of course, being a hotel, you would expect the people staying in the rooms to maybe be accountable. So that's the first port of call that they went to. In fact, it looked like nobody in the hotel had communicated with Gaming Paradise at all. Little rule of thumb: if you're ever running an event and you need hotels, maybe talk to the hotels, get a block discount. Like real basic shit. That didn't happen. Then for some reason, Titan just got struck down with AIDS. I mean, I don't even know how that happened. Like, seriously, like, the 1 minute there was a fucking picture on Twitter of Existence with a fucking oxygen mask on. Like, what the fuck is going on here? You know what I mean? It looked like Rock Hudson. It was unfucking believable. Apparently, they just got sick somehow. There was talk it might be food poisoning. That was all kind of blown up by Nex putting a tweet out using an old photo from 2011, which wasn't really the food at Gaming Paradise at all. It was like a classic photo from another horrific holiday buffet. And then partway through the tournament, they all get told, about this prize money. It's not going to happen, probably. So they then have to sit down and sign a specific new agreement as if the attending of the event wasn't enough. Like, super pinky promise, right? Super pinky promise, if you finish the tournament online, I will pay you the prize money. And of course, the tournament doesn't even get finished live at the event. It gets cancelled, and it will be finished online at a later date. Now, I started doing some fucking research into this guy. I know the guy's name who runs the whole thing. I'm putting a little article together about him. But I mean, to say this reeks of scam would be a fucking understatement. When the website was up, it had his name, it had his phone number on. Now all of the websites in his portfolio have just miraculously gone down. They don't exist anymore. He uses the alias John Smith on Skype, despite the fact his name is Sasha Bulich. So, I mean, make of this what you will, guys.
He's fled.
Yeah, he's had a flea, right? he's done one, mate. Help me, Neil! I've got the money, Neil!
I've got the PCs, Neil! Help me!
It's unfucking believable that that's even happened in this day and age. So here's what I want to say, man. Like, look, if you fucking... Right, look, I've talked about player unions and all that, but can we just do one thing? Can we all just agree that, if you get one chance as an event organizer and then you're never going to support them again? Because ironically, well, not even ironically, I don't know why I've used that word, but it's fucking stupidly, retardedly, he has said he's going to run another event in November-ish time, I think it is. He's going to try and run one in a few months. And obviously he's going to use that to pay for this event, basically. And there'll be idiots who go to that. So can we just start now, like, I know, using this thing called memory and common sense? If we combine the two of those, I think we'll be all right. But yeah, so that's absolutely ridiculous. The other thing I wanted to talk about was I want to take you back to a different time in esports, Sam. I want you to cast your memory back. It's February, I think it is.
You're the best entry fragger in the world.
Yeah. I've actually projected myself into your brain to tell you it's February of this year, I think it was. It might have been last year. Fucking, who knows? Anyway, point being, Spectate Faker was the hot topic of discussion. Everyone was talking about it. And for those that didn't follow it or don't follow League of Legends, this was a guy that was using basically a bot to be able to check when Faker, the best player in the world was logging on and playing games in solo queue, and then that bot would basically put the game live onto a Twitch stream, and people could literally spectate Faker, as the name of the stream says. Now, there is absolutely nothing illegal about this. It exists in a twilight area of copyright law. Yet at the time, Azubu put a DMCA claim because they signed an agreement with Spectate Faker, with Faker himself, to have exclusive rights to stream his games. And even though this has nothing to do with the stream is something different in itself. It's where I get to talk to you. You see me while I'm playing. There's interaction. You can support me directly through subscriptions. The numbers on Twitch were killing the official Faker stream on Azubu. Now, again, I think that's a problem of the platform and the player, but Azubu issued this DMCA takedown. Twitch complied with it. And, of course, Riot were out there telling everybody how it was all really about cyberbullying, e-stalking, and ethics, right? They didn't answer any of the legality. Mark Merrill embarrassed himself so profoundly during this period of time that I did this I think it was like an hour-long video just fucking ripping into him. And that video cost me a spot at IEM Katowice. So, that said, Spectate Faker came back and was doing the same thing on Twitch, and this time was taking money and donations. And his stream mysteriously starts getting banned for just a block term of, and this is just a generic email they sent out to him, harassment, racism, or inappropriate language / behavior. And people were saying, well, that might be because of the donations that were coming in. People were making donations and it had text to speak on, so it would be like, something really edgy, like, some racist thing, like, hey, Hitler was right, you know what I mean? Like, with a fucking, ooh, the edge, ooh, the edge. So that was happening. So people assumed it was to do with that. Then it came back on, and then it got banned again, same reason. And despite his numerous attempts to contact Twitch directly, Twitch never clarified the reason for the ban, not to him, certainly not publicly. And basically what it looks like is that once again, the collusion that we have in the esports industry, the relationship between Riot and Twitch, which is one that, is only actually escalating. We all know they recently hired Nick Allen, but what a lot of people don't know is that behind the scenes, there's been some, complicated issues going on in regards to some of the big names in League of Legends, and they were having a dispute with Twitch. This is well known in the industry, but I won't name the brands that have had some issues with Twitch. But Brandon Beck came in and was like, "Can we all get along, folks?" Like, he's acting like fucking Kofi Annan. And, trying to keep what's good for business going on. So there's obviously a relationship there, and I think Spectate Fake has been a victim of that, because I still don't know for the life of me what is illegal or improper or what copyright laws he's violating. I don't understand it, and it's never been explained by anybody. So that was back. And Mark Merrill, just to end the story before we go into some calls, what did Mark Merrill do? When the Spectate Faker stream got closed again, and the guy who was running it went on a rampage on his Twitter saying, I was only streaming to make money. I gladly admit this, unlike the other Twitch cam whores, etc. And he made himself look like a right asshole. Mark Merrill came out and said, apologies accepted, everybody. I was right all along. No, you fucking weren't, you fucking bald mug. This is what you fucking said. You said it was about cyberbullying, e-stalking, and ethics. It was nothing to do about him just doing it to make money. You said that somehow spectating the game of the most iconic and popular player in the fucking world was an inherent act of bullying. No one's apologizing to you, you prick. You're a fucking idiot if you think that. And, he's just left that out there. He's left that on Twitter. He's left that on Reddit. It's fucking embarrassing. Embarrassing. Anyway. So, I think we can do some calls now. Hopefully one of them's going to be about Spectate Fake. I got material for days.
What a fucking goon. Well, look who's first lined up. Right, it's from
It's your boy Eli. Oh, no, who?
F-Ruse, and he wants to talk about Spectate Faker getting banned again.
Yes. It's like we planned it.
We would never do that.
No,
Hey, how's it
never.
going?
Hey, you're on there, right? Great, awesome. Well, it's great to have you on. So you actually want to talk about what I was just ranting about, which of course is the Spectate Faker stream being taken down. Now, obviously, total disclosure. I'm not saying I don't think it should be taken down, but I'm saying if you are going to take it down, you can't just take it down for wishy-washy reasons. You've got to be absolutely clear, and you've got to cite the legal precedent on which it's being removed. And Twitch haven't done this. And that, for me, is what's problematic about this, that if they can just take a stream down and use that blanket word harassment, which seems to be increasingly popular these days, I think there's something that is potentially scary about that. It could affect any streamer that Twitch had an issue with in future.
Well, for me, I was watching the stream on the final time that it got banned, and I was following him on Twitter already when I saw his rampage. But I thought that this was just going to be some kind of cycle where he was going to get banned, there was going to be some questionable reason, and then he was going to be able to go on Twitch again on another name and do this all over again. But what really set me off and why I wanted to talk about this, I actually missed the last trash talk to try and talk about this, was that a tweet from High came out, really random, and I have the tweet right here. It says, "Yay, Spectate Faker stream is banned. Stream is literal garbage and too money thirsty. Just show me gameplay, not shit memes / donations." Now, if you were here the last time Spectate Faker got banned, you already understand that it's like there's a lot of inconsistencies in the statement. First of all, if the guy is too money thirsty and he's lying about donations, I don't know if that is if that's been proven, that the donations towards charities he actually took personally. And if that is true, I don't know if that even applies to Twitch's rules.
Yeah, true. I mean, we have no way of knowing. All I know is that he did set up a dual option. So it was very clear you would be donating to, I think it was Doctors Without Borders when he first did it, or him. And I think the second time around, I don't even think there was an option for charity. I don't think he even cared about that by then.
Well, the next thing that goes on from that is that he says, "Just show me gameplay," which I thought was like what he was doing the first time when you were spectating only Faker. There was nothing. You just saw Faker playing the game. So what comes to my mind is, where was High when he got banned defending this guy if all he wants to do is see gameplay?
Yeah, absolutely right.
So to me, it already comes across as some kind of like, I don't want to be all conspiracy, but agenda, he has contacts.
The whole thing was about this. It was going to create too many problems moving forward. It was always going to need to be looked at as from a legal perspective, and there was potential for it to have huge ramifications throughout the industry, because if we accept that Spectate Faker isn't against any rules, then we have to accept that players don't own their gameplay, and this is true, by the way, because every developer, every publisher will tell you this. That if at any point they want to, issue, and we've seen this with like Nintendo, people like, if they want to issue takedowns on your content when you're using their intellectual property, they're perfectly within their rights legally to do it, and they will do it. Now, with that in mind, it seems a very odd stance for Spectate Faker to be kind of singled out, when on the front page of the League of Legends subreddit, every day I see people using that oddshot.tv to take a copy of someone's stream, a clip of a particularly entertaining moment, and they put it up there, or they put it on their own YouTube channel, which they may or may not be monetizing, and nobody said anything about this. Nobody's had any nobody's presented any rules about this. No one said this is out of order, and of course it is. There was a thread by Civ HD, and he's not my favorite streamer by any means, but I think he made a good point where he said, this really does have the potential to affect our livelihood. Now, I haven't seen Mark Merrill attacking everybody that's ever uploaded a fucking clip to YouTube, because obviously this helps proliferate the popularity and success of the game without necessarily stepping on any of their business partners' toes.
You know, you reminded me about YouTube. I was thinking to myself when I read this tweet, how many YouTube channels do we need to get banned that are making like MLG League videos and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely, exactly. I mean, look, I don't know what would happen content-wise to League of Legends if we started adopting the stance that players have to have complete dominion over the content on their streams. Now, here's what I will say. If Spectate Faker is wrong, and we all agree that, then everyone that's taken a clip, put it on a YouTube channel, that is equally wrong. So
yeah, there has to be consistency.
Exactly. Let's have a consistent application of that rule, and I can't wait to see what would be in place on the League of Legends subreddit. I can't wait to see what sort of horrific legal minefield this would open. I actually can't wait to see what it would do to the number of people playing the game, because ultimately, if the only people that can share clips and share entertaining moments and plays are the people that made them or streamed them directly, I think you're actually cutting off an entry point for people to get into the game that way. So... But you know, consistency has to be applied. But that isn't Riot's strong point, which we all know. Incidentally, what do you think about the Spectate Faker stream? You said you watched it. Did you donate? Did you support him?
No, I didn't donate. I don't have enough money for that.
But I mean, do you agree with it in principle?
Yeah, I agree with it in principle, mostly because there are a lot of steps in order to spectate people on the Korean server in particular that the option to just watch a stream instead, I feel, is reasonable, because he is providing a service to you in the sense that you don't have to go on a website and look up a person and find out that when that person is playing and when he isn't, and then choose to spectate that person through like a third-party connection between the League client. There's a lot of steps that are being skipped there that he's doing for you. And I believe there was a voting system at the time too, so you also got to choose what you wanted to watch, and the majority wins. So it was like there were a lot of unique aspects to the stream already. Yeah. So I feel like it's okay. It was okay for it to exist.
I did hear a rumor that, and I don't know if this is true or not. It's just being chatted about in sort of, again, industry circles, and that is that at this point, Twitch are now going to alter their rules to say you can only... They're trying to find a way in which they can make it so you are only allowed to stream or broadcast your own gameplay, right? And the reason why they haven't just put that kind of out there is because, of course, you know, you've got things like Sub Wars if you're in Team 2G. Yes. You've got things like, you know, demo reviews of other people's games, you know, which is very popular in CSGO. You know, you see guys like Dazed and Steel, they'll play a demo live on their stream and they'll analyze it and talk with the people who watch the stream, and that's proved to be very popular. I don't really see how Twitch can bring a rule in that consistently enforces what I think they want to do and prevent things like this. And of course, Spectate Faker was targeted because it did blow up. It had about, I think at one point, like 15,000. I know at the first time it came out, it had 20,000, 22,000 viewers. I think this time it had between 10,000 and 15,000 viewers. Meanwhile, there's a stream called, I think it's Salty Timo, that does exactly the same thing. It uses the API to rip players in Bronze 5, and it, without their knowledge or permission, it broadcasts their terrible games to about 50 to 100 people that watch that stream. Now, I haven't seen anyone say that that needs to be taken down. And
now,
again, we get into this gray area. Sorry, go on.
Now, the thing that's funny about that is that Salty Timo, I think there was another stream that was a predecessor to that called Timo Dies, which was actually fairly popular for like the first 2 to 3 weeks. Now, obviously, this was so long ago that things were a lot more lax, so you don't really have the issues with people feeling like their integrity is being compromised in various ways. But you would think these thoughts would take longer would take less time than for Spectate Faker to come out when Timo Dies existed. For people to have these thoughts that something is ethically wrong or is infringing on the rights of the player or whatever excuse they want to make.
Well, if I remember rightly, though, it wasn't Timo Dies. Wasn't that an official Riot stream anyway? I seem to remember when I did the video ripping into Mark Merrill. I seem to remember using that as one of the examples of Riot's, inherent hypocrisy. But I'm pretty sure that was an official stream. And again, it was they took players. And here's the thing: Riot obviously do own that IP, so they can talk about it. But the point was, they can use it. But the point was they were talking about how it was unethical to stream somebody without their knowledge. And once Mark Merrill brought ethics and behavior and, don't be a rules lawyer and all the other dumb shit he said to the table, then you have to close that stream down. You cannot do what you're condemning other people for doing. So it seems to be, a fairly ridiculous standpoint. I did talk very briefly with Spectate Faker after it happened. I got in touch with him. He doesn't have an online presence. I believe he shut down his Twitter now. We always communicated through a fake Skype. He's closed his Reddit account. I think he has little to no interest in being a persistent presence within esports, but he was immensely disappointed. And I think what he said was the last thing he said to me about it was because people don't realize actually he had to hire somebody to code the bot and everything. This was quite a long exercise. There was a lot that went into it. And he just said, if you don't own anything in esports, you'll always get fucked over. And he goes, I don't own. I'm not Faker. So I can't even lay any claim to owning the gameplay. I'm not a Zubu, so I don't own Faker, and I'm not Twitch, so I don't own a broadcasting platform, and I can't broadcast what I think the people want to see. So I do have a degree of sympathy with him, even though I thought he was a bit of an idiot to sort of give Mark Merrill the easy ammunition by having a Twitter meltdown.
He did attempt to stream on YouTube Gaming. And it started out getting like 50 viewers, getting close to 100, and then that just disappeared. And now there's another one that's called Spectate Faker, which, oddly enough, streams everything 30 seconds late from this other channel called Tracking the Pros.
Yeah.
And that one isn't as popular, but it stayed up. And because the name was Spectate Faker, and because, if I recall correctly, this was Spectate Faker was run by a group of people. I was wondering if it was the same group, but it doesn't seem like it because it's strictly gameplay. You can't read the Korean characters from the server, so this person doesn't have either the Korean client or whatever supports Korean text within the client. So I'm not sure about all these things, but.
Long story short, do you think somebody, you can ban Spectate Faker and we can all not talk about it, and we know the League of Legends community don't have very long memories. They'll simply just move on and not think about the issue at all, which is why Riot have been able to get away with their bullshit for as long as they have, because they don't have a very fucking informed consumer base. But eventually, I think this issue is going to have to get dealt with. Somebody else is going to do, it could be, Spectate whoever, and that's going to come up again. It's going to keep coming up, and we're going to need some sort of legal ruling on this. So I definitely think it's going to come up again. I don't think we've heard the last of it, even if we have heard the last of Spectate Faker. Anyway, I'm going to move on to another call. Thanks a lot for being a great first caller, and it's always good to get new people on the show. I hope you'll call again in future.
I'll try. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, no worries. Happy to do it. Right. Take care, brother. So now Sam, I believe you know a thing or two about streaming, don't you?
Yep.
So what did you make of all this Spectate Faker thing? Was he trapped in the closet?
I think when rules become selectively applicable, they're no longer rules, they're bullying tactics, or, bullshit, in other words. The fact that it hasn't been applied to anyone else is just ridiculous. When people stream like live streams of players playing all the time, like when they do reviews and shit, and nobody mentions about that. The fact he was trying to say he was bullying is like, get fucked. Number one, know when they did that statement where they basically made Faker say, I don't want this. Like, do you really think that motherfucker cares? Do you really think how many people are spectating Faker? Do you realize people, if he didn't want people to watch, he'd play on his other account. You believe it or not, he doesn't just play on SKT1 Faker. He has many accounts.
Yeah, it's just, look, I mean, but I think the argument there is, like, the thing that really sort of drives me nuts anyway is, okay, so Riot on the one hand are saying that it's completely okay for their pros to have to train, to have to play a solo queue environment with absolutely no special preferences whatsoever. They have to mix with the public, mix with the plebs, who just fuck with them constantly. And if you ever want evidence of that, all you need to do is watch a pro stream, and you will see how many people just fucking troll and fuck around, just desperate to get a rise out of a pro so they can screenshot it, put it on Reddit, and go, look how toxic he is. Right? That's like literally, you know, there's people who play the game solely for that in the upper ends, you know, of the MMR system. And Riot say that's totally fine and totally acceptable. On the other hand, they say if you spectate a player who probably gets mobbed every time he steps outside of his house, is one of the most iconic esports figures in the world right now, if you just watch his game without him knowing about it, you're bullying him. It makes no fucking sense. You know, the stance makes no sense to stand so separately on those two issues. So you know, I'd say I'm amazed, but of course, you know, it's once again, it's Riot Games. Have we got
end it with suck a dick and die?
Well, yeah, well, or we could get Spam Margera on.
Yep, right.
Yeah, well, let's get him on. Little message from Mark Merrill.
Fuck Riot Games.
Awesome. So I always like a bit of Spam Margera. Whatever happened to him, by the way?
We're still in touch, mate.
Yeah. Good. Awesome.
Might see what else we can make him do for money.
Shit, speaking of that, we never showed these. Bring up the screenshots of that guy who promised to smoke a pack of cigarettes. Do you remember? Have you got the messages?
Yeah.
That we sent him. Bring them up.
All right.
So anyway, as you guys know, because you guys right now aren't morons, but we do get a lot of morons that watch the show. And while I'm grateful for the viewing numbers, I've always said I'd much rather morons didn't watch my content. But anyway, there was a lot people I don't think realize that we get these people from like Fiverr.com. It's not like we met Spam Margera at his fucking high school. Like, here's some money, Spam. Staple this bit of paper to your head. And then we filmed him and then we flew back, right? Like, he offers that as a service on a website called Fiverr.com. It's the same with that girl who we say is Light's girlfriend. It's a skit. It's a joke. It's something we do to make the show entertaining. The amount of threads I've seen. A New Low by Richard Lewis. He tracked down Light's ex-girlfriend.
That was the best.
And had her humiliate his piggly wiggly dick. You know, like just the idea of even doing. Don't get me wrong. I mean, maybe the alcoholism will fucking take over, and one day I will actually do something like that. But people fucking. People believe that I would actually do that, which is ridiculous. But no, we hired her. This woman offers a bunch of services. She'll sit on balloons until they burst, like doing this, right? And you can film her. You'll do that. She'll do She'll send photos of her in S&M gear. I mean, she does a bunch of services.
She's
great.
all, mate.
She does it all, exactly. She's the closest I've come to sex in 20 years. I love her dearly. But anyway, the point is that we pay these people to do these things. Now, to be funny, we have to reach out and try and come up with funny ideas. And we saw this guy, right? So it's on. It's on your screen. So there was a guy who basically said that he would smoke like like a whole cigarette in like one hit, like just suck it down like that. So we were like, fucking vacuum lungs, right? So we were like, okay, cool, that's fucking hilarious. So as you can see, our mutual friend here, definitely not Travis, sent a message to him saying, "Hello, I am a wealthy sadist. I have very particular tastes. I enjoy inflicting pain and misery on others. I notice that you will accept money for smoking cigarettes in a very unhealthy way. I want to pay you to smoke several cigarettes in a single sitting while I watch your health deteriorate. I will pay you for each cigarette smoked, and I want the video of you doing them all at once." And he just replied, "Sorry, sir, out of service. Oh, sorry, our service is off now." So we did have other material planned. Like, we did have things that we wanted to do. But he pussied out, basically. Matthew Pritheby. Yeah, he really had enough. Do you know what, though? I like to think, when he got that message, right? He just thought, man, I'm in some deep shit. Like, I gotta get off Fiverr.com.
I gotta get a real job.
Before I'm in the fucking Pain Olympics or something, like chopping my bell end off with a chisel for $5. So, anyway,
I'd pay him 20 to do it.
So yeah, this is what we do. This is how we spend our time when we're preparing the show. So it's between YouTube clips and messaging freaks on Fiverr. This is pretty much all the preparation we do. So that's just to prove to you. We are trying consistently to come up with new ideas, but Spam Margera is just too much. He's too great to leave off the show. Anyway, let's do another call, I think, Sam. Who have we got?
Okay, next we have Noah Kim, Risen Larius, and he wants to talk about competitive integrity in the context of the Esports conference and some of the topics they talked about there.
Okay, excellent. So for those that don't know, Risen Lazarus is a law student. I believe he's in the later stages of it. He's a regular caller. Here he is. It's Risen Lazarus. You've been trying to get on the show for a while, brother. How you been?
Yeah, I'm good. Every time you have this show, I have class. So just fuck.
That's what happens, man. Asian law student type, like you're a very hardworking person. But look, on the bright side, you'll own the world right now. You'll be able to buy and sell me many times over when you'll be like half my age. So, it works out. Look on the bright side. Yeah. He's not even listed. He's not even listed. He's like, fucking hell. Fuck this Richard guy. So let's talk about competitive integrity. They're my two favorite words in the English language, especially when they're side by side and parroted by Riot Games, the most inconsistent and horrific applier of competitive integrity I've ever seen. So you watched this conference. We did have a few talks about competitive integrity, and there were some things that overlapped into competitive integrity, specifically the panel I chaired, which was about regulation in esports. What are your thoughts, Risen?
Yeah, so one of the a bunch of us were in chat. I think Sophia and Sugi was an idiot, but we were watching, and I think the part that I think was the most interesting for me is one of the panelists, I think it was Wooter from Fnatic, was talking about sharing the burden. And, there's a bunch of players using, okay, that word doesn't work here, but, there's a bunch of stakeholders in esports. And
yeah,
you have teams, you have the players, you have organizers, sponsors, game devs. And the question was, how do we allocate the burdens of, one, running lucrative tournaments, keeping players substantially compensated, and keeping competitive integrity in the focus. And I think his point, or I think this was the lawyer, the IP lawyer that you had on, but his point was that because the game devs hold the IP rights for everything that all the organizers, all the teams need in order for this whole thing to function, and they license these out because they know that they're getting a benefit. They're also the most practical means of making sure that if we're going to do something with competitive integrity and making sure it's uniform, they're the center of it. They're the ones that all the organizers have to deal with, all the teams have to deal with, no matter what they do. And so I think his point was that maybe it's not, it's not an ethical obligation. It's not something to where legally they're required to take a part in this. But if this thing wants to succeed and wants to become big going forward, the onus is probably on game devs to make sure that their role is being fulfilled.
Yeah, but so here's the thing with that, brother. And that is, I get triggered obviously whenever we talk about games developers, being the fucking moral arbiters of any competitive scene that arises out of their game. I've often said this. What developers might make games, but I believe it's like the community that sort of builds up around those games that ultimately they test the boundaries, they push the limits, and therefore they should, to a large degree, set the rules. And I like to think that a good developer will be almost sort of hands off enough to say, well, hey, as long as there's people out there, like you say, a stakeholder, someone that has a vested interest in the preservation of our game, then our game's going to survive for a longer period of time. It'll have that longer lifespan. It'll make more money. More people will play it. This is actually a good thing for us. Now, Riot have always maintained, and it's because of, obviously, they had that huge surge in popularity, which gives you delusions of invincibility. They seem to think that we can actually control every little facet of the game, and nobody will ever get annoyed by this. Nobody will ever want to push back against us, and this will be long term to our benefit. Well, actually, we're already starting to see how this is detrimental. We're already starting to see how team owners maybe even starting to weigh up now the benefits of, do I even bother having an LCS team? We're starting to look at team owners actually defying Riot on some of the rulings. I mean, this has been going on quite a while. I don't know if people remember when TSM was sponsored by Snapdragon. But do you remember this?
Those videos
got
were
a
the worst.
T-shirt with a Snapdragon logo on, man.
Yeah.
Awesome, good. I'm glad. I'm really glad. Well, when that happened, and they wanted to be called TSM Snapdragon, Riot actually said, "We don't want you to do that. We don't want you to be called that. We don't want to, put their name so proudly on display." And the TSM were like, "Well, why not? It's a sponsor. This is how we have to do things to make money." And then, so rather than just be honest about it, Riot tried to go down this backdoor route of saying, "Well, how do we know you've got the right to display that name?" And they were like, "Well, do you want your lawyers to talk to Snapdragon's lawyers and our lawyers, and is this how we need to do it?" And then in the end, the only reason Riot Games sort of backed off on that was TSM said, "How about we just rebrand altogether then? We'll just call ourselves something completely different for the purposes of LCS." And they were like, well, we don't want to lose the TSM brand. So this is what I mean. It's like, it seems to me that people are pushing back against Riot Games. I think player numbers have plateaued, and I think people are getting increasingly sick of Riot's bullshit. Now, I'm talking about Riot a lot here because if we want those guys to be the kind of moral center for competitive integrity, we see where that consistently falls down. We see where that has fallen down multiple times in the past. I got worried about it. Look, at the moment, it's great for Valve, what they're doing. When they get involved in Dota 2, they seem to be doing it sensibly. They're player-centric, player-focused. They've done it for CSGO as well, with the bans for match fixing. And I commend them for being there when it's required, but not overly heavy-handed and officious. But that could change. And if it changes, I think this is where it becomes a problem for me.
Yeah. The Valve thing is interesting because, they haven't had to deal a lot in this because VAG is such a really shitty system, but it works for what they want it to do as far as the competitive scene goes. And so does Overwatch, but who was it that got banned from Overwatch? Someone from Titan, right? But
yeah.
So I mean, they've had a fairly hands-off approach, and I think as far as the public opinion of them goes, it's helpful just to not be involved generally. Riot's always want to be the master of their own destiny, and part of that is not only being the game dev, obviously, but taking the reins on all of the esports. And when we moved away from the open circuit, the international tournaments, and having the regions play against each other, a big complaint about it was that we're going to see regions that are going to grow, and they're going to grow in opposite of each other. NA and EU are going to have problems because, generally speaking, the players suck. And China and Korea are going to grow massively, and China's going to be huge because they have the money for it. And how does this all tie back into competitive integrity? Well, when you leave the reins of the stuff in the hands of organizers who have their own interests, most of them monetary, but have their own reasons for upholding these issues, you get less of the centralized focus. I mean, it's hard to explain it, but there's when you spread out the obligations here, sort of in opposite of what the person what that IP lawyer was saying. When you spread out the obligations here, you create less of a risk that one bad decision or a couple bad decisions go really shit for the entire enterprise.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, what I would recommend, this is the model I've recommended to Valve when we've had conversations, is that I think every developer for any game that they want to have competitive aspirations, they need to appoint a league commissioner. And I don't mean, again, like Riot Games is league commissioner. I mean that's a fairly fake and token appointment. Nick Allen is a fucking shill, and always has been. He will go where the fucking paycheck is, and he will morph chameleon-like to the values of the people around him. He seems to be very divorced from reality in a lot of ways every time I've had any dealings with him. So I wouldn't consider that an appointment. That's Riot, again, giving the illusion of caring about competitive integrity. And his replacement, Hunter Lee, I've had very mixed dealings with him also. I don't really know what to make of his appointment. All I can say is anything would be a step up from Mr. Allen. But now, if you what I told Valve is, if you want to make an appointment for a league commissioner, you want to appoint somebody that I know the community already has a respect for, that already has that sort of authority, somebody that can communicate openly and earnestly with the community, and somebody that has an understanding of the subtle art of diplomacy, because ultimately, a league commissioner has got to be fair. Ultimately, a league commissioner or a competition commissioner has to be somebody that can sort of see both ends of the argument. You've got to be consistent in your application. You can't get starstruck. You also can't have any loyalty to specific brands simply because of their size. So, for example, you wouldn't want somebody banning, I don't know, let's say a team owner for a year for doing something that was now demonstrably proven not to have happened, because Riot want to do a hatchet job on him because he's talking about breaking up the power fucking paradigm.
Right.
Meanwhile, team owners who have actually been proven to be involved in poaching get a $10,000 fine. So this is what I mean. You've got to have someone that can push back a little bit of the developer. You need a developer almost sort of that cares enough about the big picture to have a league commissioner that actually has the authority to say, well, look, I know this is the direction you want to go on it, but we didn't go that way for all these other people, so why are we going to do it now? So I hope Valve do that, because the one area Valve fall down in for CSGO and Dota 2 is that they don't have somebody that can regularly communicate with the community, and somebody that can sort of get involved in these big decisions. But I'd actually like to see Valve get slightly more hands-on, but with the caveat they need to appoint somebody for it. So yeah, it's I think if you don't have that in place, it's very hard for you to start talking about competitive integrity and start applying rules left, right, and center.
Right. What was that like, by the way, being on that panel? Because the whole time I was just finding it was the same as when Scoots was doing the MLG thing, and every time he talked and cut to a break, the CS:GO Lounge ad would come on, and start laughing because everyone knows how much Scoots hates them.
Yeah,
so what was it like being on stage with, I mean, obviously we're talking about Steve here, but people who.
Oh, well, here's the thing. So just to put this in context, it's the first time me and Steve have had an opportunity to sit down and have a few drinks, and we did. We bought, it was a very productive talk. Obviously, Steve's thrown shit at me, and I've thrown shit at Steve publicly, and it's probably not very becoming of either of us, but that's just esports in a nutshell, really. So we sat down, and I bought him a very expensive bourbon, and we had a chat. And, he was very open and honest, and he said, look, if, I could go back, I would totally have handled that differently. I realize you're just doing your job. It's almost like a sign of our success when these sort of speculations are coming around, and you've done, as far as I'm concerned, great journalism to understand what's happening in my organization, perhaps sometimes even before I do. So he was like, said moving forward, that's not going to be something he's going to get involved in again. And, I said, yeah, and perhaps what I could have done differently is maybe, we can have these conversations in back rooms over a bourbon instead of over Twitter, where we're just flinging shit at each other like apes in a zoo. And the thing I will say about that is I've never liked that approach, because I think it speaks to cronyism. I don't like the idea of me being able to sort of backdoor a problem and be like, come on guys, come on gentlemen, we're all better than this. Like as if we're all politicians and our day job is we pretend we're on separate political parties, but actually we all attend the same meetings. We've all got the same financial backers. There is actually no division whatsoever. I don't want the press and the esports personalities to get into that sort of dark area, which is why I've never done it. But it was a productive talk, and I think Steve enjoyed the moderation of the panel, and we got to hang out afterwards as well. And, I met a lot of the owners. Obviously, Chris Badawi was here as well. I think what was really interesting was there was this funny bit, and hopefully Steve will forgive me for regaling this story. I can't remember what fucking panel this was on, but I wasn't sharing it. So I was in the crowd with Chris Badawi. We were sat next to each other. And there was the question was about, like, how do you sort of help grow the awareness of esports? How do you help open things up or something like that? And Steve Arnset says, well, I've done a lot of things, like, for example, when new team owners have come into the scene, I've welcomed them, right? I was just looking over at Chris like, come on, put your hand up, say something, motherfucker. Like, I was just laughing at that. Like, welcomed them with fucking 50 shivs to the fucking chest. Like, but no, it was, look, I mean, I've said this to Chris, like, he knows how I feel about it. It's not like Chris was completely innocent in the sense that he did fuck up in that he didn't know the lay of the land, and he did have conversations that could be construed as being discourteous, would be the way of putting it. But again, Riot have no standing on which to ban him, because they retroactively applied a rule that didn't exist to things that he maybe or maybe not, didn't even do. So it was a pretty ridiculous situation. But overall, the conference was really good. Like I said, I think it's a shame more people didn't watch it. I went there at the last minute. I was kind of hiking in the Canadian mountains. I'd already given up on going because the conference wanted me to pay to attend, in the sense that I waived my fee. I said, look, I'll moderate this for you. And I normally get paid for this sort of thing, but I won't. But I want this to succeed, so I'll do it for free. All you got to do, fly me there, put me in a hotel, bada bing, bada boom. Now, keep in mind, people were paying $2,000 a ticket to attend this. $2,000, brother. And you know what? Do you know what I like to believe? I like to believe that those people paying $2,000 fucking dollars to see me, right? So I've added value to your thing right there. And it was like 2 days before, and I got a call from my agent, and my agent was like furious, saying they're not going to pay for you to go. I said, what do you mean they're not going to pay for me to go? I said, I've waived my fee. He goes, no, they're not even going to pay for the hotel or flights. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm in Canada. Like, what the fuck? I'm in Banff getting fucking wrecked in the woods, staring at the northern lights while on Canadian mushrooms. There has to be a hotel, there has to be a flight. And they were like, well, no. So then I just went down the route of the good old Twitter shame. Sorry, friends, don't know if I'll be able to attend. And then it all got resolved within 24 hours. So I literally, I'd been camping out in the woods, and I had to get on a fucking plane that day. I caught the last flight out of Vancouver to San Francisco, and then had to go, all fucked up from the night's explorations, and then I had to go straight on stage and sort of moderate and do speeches and stuff. But it was cool. I mean, the one thing I will say, just as a final point, is that these things, I don't know if you've ever seen one, but they're kind of like speed dating for rich people, in the sense that it literally throws together venture capitalists with too much money and not a clue, with people who are desperate to get money with ideas. But, not all the ideas are going to be good. Not all the money is going to get spent well. And when you combine those people, I just think, maybe 5% of it will be good for the industry, but the rest has a potential to be a fucking disaster. And everyone wants in on esports now. It's a buzzword. Everybody wants in on it. I was talking to people who are like, there was a guy at this thing. He'd sold his last company for $500 million.
Jeez.
$500 million. And we're just sat there having dinner together, and he's like, so what's this e-gaming about then? I'm like, oh, God, Lord, help me. So help me, Neil. So it's just too much, man. But you know how it is. So yeah, getting back to the point about competitive integrity, I think it's absolutely essential that if a developer wants to have a say in it, you have to commit to putting the infrastructure in place. It's got to be organic. It's got to respect the community. You've got to recruit from the community. And if you don't do that, then, I don't think just because you own the intellectual property for something, I don't think that it gives you the right to just keep sticking your fingers in the gumbo. In fact, I want a legal challenge to this. I want somebody to step up to the plate and say that, when you make a league or a ladder, or you make competitive gaming, or you make a rule set or something, it's transformative. That's the point. No one's been able to argue that it's transformative. And as a result, because it's not transformative, nobody can own it except the developers. We need a robust legal challenge to that way of thinking, I think.
That's interesting.
So
there you go. First, because we've never had a sport that's owned, so that's interesting.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like, people don't realize this. Like, you talk about NFL, it's not like one guy who's like, hey, I threw an egg-shaped ball once, so now it's all me. Like, if you want to ever play football, you have to ask my permission. If you, I set the rules. That doesn't exist. It's the same for the NBA. And in fact, the way the franchise model works, it's kind of like the team owners kind of own the league in a sense anyway.
Right.
With a over presiding commissioner, we've never had anything like esports before, where a game is created and then the competitive element to it sort of comes secondary. But there is one group of people that completely and utterly own all the rights to that game, that sport. They can take it away tomorrow if they want to. That's what I mean. That's what we need to get in courts and figure this shit out, I think, before we do too much, because otherwise we might just be building sandcastles,
Yeah, the one more last thing, because I know we're running long.
That's fine, man.
The one place where I think game devs do have the most obvious, most immediate, and the most, I think, impactful role as far as competitive integrity go is in the balancing. So, just as a caveat, my general idea about how competitive gaming works, and esports works, is that entropy is generally bad for esports. So entropy, not just randomness. RNG is one thing. Hearthstone has that issue, but entropy in the sense that it's not controllable. There's things that are beyond the control of the players and the teams to affect the game to where they can have an advantage. And so I think the best example of this is when the game is balanced in a position where there are just parts of the games that are patently unfair, and as soon as one team has control over that part of the game, you see an imbalance with how the teams stack up against each other. And I think the best example for this, not from League, was from CSGO back when the Tech 9 was insane. Yeah. It completely shifted the way the meta works, because you would win the first round on CT side and be like, okay, well, now we're against Tech 9s, which are essentially mini MP7s, right? So what the hell do we buy? Well, you saw teams pulling out like M4s with head armor, or without head armor sometimes, because they were just so afraid of getting rushed down by these things. And so Valve took a step. They, I don't remember what the change was. They changed something about the tagging, and then something about the way the recoil worked with how fast you shot it. But that was enough to shift the meta. So now we see teams like Renegades is really big about this. They buy scouts and they buy deagles on the second round, because they know in the context of what the game used to be, Tech 9s aren't as strong, so that they can buy things like deagles, which everyone thought was shit before, and find a way to bring back the advantage. And I think this is the main part where I think game devs, Riot, the last competitive matches that were played on a patch were 5.16 in China, and before that it was, for a month straight we had 5.14. But now we're going to be on 5.18 for Worlds. And if you look at some of the patch notes, some of them are huge. We have Ezreal getting an AD ratio on an AP ability. We have Gangplank's getting his damage nerfed again on his barrels. He's been, the meta top laner for a long time.
Yeah,
obviously
the
Juggernauts.
remake,
Right. Obviously, the Juggernauts are coming in, and they've all had significant changes every single patch. And what did they say? They said we're fine-tuning this.
Yeah.
And then
It's almost as if they
different
had a
metagame.
public beta environment to fine tune things. I don't,
Right.
again, what do I know, right? Like it's almost as if all of this shit could be sorted out before the centerpiece of fucking of your entire season. But of course, again, it's Riot. I don't get me started on how they fucking balance shit out. But you know, I think feeding back into this point, it ties in with exactly what I said before. It's like I know developers like to think they know the game inside out. But as we've seen from like Ghost Crawler's fucking fevered ramblings on Ask FM, like literally, put it this way: as someone that smoked DMT, I've never been as high as Ghost Crawler is when it talks to fucking balance. And I was like, fucking, I find a policy of nerfing everything. Fuck off! What is wrong with you, you fucking mentalist? Like, anyway. The point is, like, it's the players. It's the players that test the boundaries. It's the players that find what work. And then when there's an optimal set of rules in play and an optimal way to play the game, that's when developers need to come in and patch stuff, because they'll tell you this is overpowered. Nobody, and this is what, I don't get why Valve get a lot of criticism. Yes, they have fucked up some of the balance in the games before, but with the way they've tweaked guns and everything. But I absolutely have said, like, for the most part, they've done all right. There's still some issues with like jump scouts or whatever, but they've opened up CS:GO in a way that has more gun balance than any other version of Counter-Strike ever had. You never saw people buy shotguns in 1.6 or Source. There was never a reason to use these guns. The pistols, again, in Source, you just went Deagle if you could afford to buy it, because it was so ridiculously overpowered. And this is what I mean. So it's like, it's the players that fucking set the boundaries, and the developers have to react to that. And I think this is what I mean. We don't give players and especially the hardcore professional players enough credit or enough influence over the way a game changes direction, and I think that needs to start happening more often. But anyway, so we'll jump on to another call. It's always great to talk to you, Noah. Best of luck with all your classes and exams and whatever else you educated types do, and no doubt I'll hear from you again in future.
Thank you, man. CLG.
Yeah, peace. Right, there you go. Nice little CLG right at the end from him. Which, I thought he might want to, being a CLG fan, I thought he might want to talk about the X-Smithy thing.
Nobody cares, man.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Do you not care, Sam?
Nah. I mean, right. Someone just said Sophia just said in chat CLG purposely didn't want Xfinity to get a visa. The thing is, I actually think that might be true, because on the CLG subreddit, I don't know if you saw it, but a guy from like the Filipino government said, "Oh, I can sort this out, mate." And then the guy replied, Nah, you can't. Nah, you're right, man. Just like Malixia's like, "Oh yeah, I messed but I doubt you can, but nah. Yeah. We'll leave him home. Nah."
The thing is, if I remember rightly, isn't he a Philippines national though, as well, or something?
Well, he's got a green card to work in
the
US, but he's a Filipino.
But and the rest the US or Canadian nationals, and I think this is where the visa issues cropped up. Which, don't get me wrong, I still don't think it's an excuse, because, look, while I agree it's an organizational failing, it's a player failing, they've got to be responsible for this sort of shit. Again, I do seem to recall Riot saying, "Hey, we all get visas now, we're all pros now, buddy.
The athletes now, homie."
And the idea that, Riot, again, this is why it sort of links into the competitive integrity thing. The idea that Riot would know, because they must know X-Smithy's a Filipino national, right? And is going to have a different visa acquisition process to the rest of his team. How can you have a team that's qualified, for the centerpiece of your season, and hey, we're using a stand-in. We're having to use a stand-in.
It's your boy Hoo-hee.
Yeah, we've trained him for 4 months. Wow, a whole 4 months. This couldn't go wrong. This, it's like it's suboptimal, and I hate it when shit like this paperwork impacts on the way a competition could be potentially headed. Like, think about it in football. Have you ever heard, like, "Oh, hey, we're
Messi
going
can't
over.
come to England, sorry."
Yeah.
Could get his visa.
Yeah, Barcelona got to play Man United at fucking Old Trafford, but Messi can't come. You know, you couldn't get a visa. We don't really know why. You know, it just wouldn't be allowed to happen. Like, I mean, you know, the people that control the Champions League would be aghast because that's money, that's viewership. You know, that impacts on everything.
Thing
That's
is,
bad.
you know, everyone else is Spanish and he's Argentinian, so you know, we just didn't do it in time.
Yeah, we just didn't do it. We just didn't do the paperwork, you know. And don't get me wrong, okay, we're talking about huge, you know, clubs that have had a proud tradition and have been doing this for fucking, you know, a long, long time. Certainly a lot longer than any esports organizations. But I'm pretty sure Riot Games makes more money than the fucking, you know, English Football Association. That's got to be true. They're owned by Tencent, right? One of the biggest companies in the world. Meanwhile, the FA are nickel and diming fucking people over here in the UK over real childish shit. You know, so it's like you've got all these resources at your disposal. I'm pretty sure that might not be true, actually. But anyway, you get my point. It can't be a million miles away when you're owned by one of the largest, you know, companies in the world, like the Chinese equivalent of fucking Google. It just seems to me ridiculous that you wouldn't be able to put a bit more money into this. Like, for example, I know from my own research, they had one lawyer on retainer to deal with these issues. One for both Western regions.
Even unicorn has more than that, mate. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it's really weird because they've got an army of lawyers in other areas. And indeed, that guy that was on the panel with us, Sean F. Kane, he was a great old boy. I didn't get to have breakfast with him. I still got his bio here, though, from when I was doing research on everybody. On the panels, he's actually again, he's an entertainment lawyer specialist, specializes in the area of intellectual property. Even he's done work with Riot Games, but he's not on retainer or anything. But again, that's the type of caliber lawyer that they're using to control their interests in other areas. Meanwhile, if you need a visa, like one of the most important fundamental things, one of the things that they've consistently talked about, you've got one guy on retainer, one guy. Just one guy, and he just sits in his office. Would you like a visa? This is how you fill in a form. That's it. That's what he's doing. I'm not even joking about that, actually. The number of players, and of course, you know, it's all off the record, right? No one will go on record about Riot Games that say, when I came to get a visa, I found the assistance from Riot to be really underwhelming, to say the least, you know? So I think we need another Spam Margera for all of this, actually.
Okay.
Thanks, brother.
Fuck Riot Games.
Awesome. So, right. So I think we should move on and get another caller, I reckon. We'll fit somebody in. So have we got any good ones, Sam?
Yep. Next we have Fursu. I think that's how you pronounce it, Fursau. And he's from Dubai, and he's attended every day of ESL Dubai except for the finals because he has to go to school.
Right. Let's do it then. I'm into this. Someone on the ground in Dubai.
Yeah. Joining us live from Dubai. It's
your
boy Fursu.
No, listen, I'm excited about this though, because it's like I didn't go, and like here we are, man. Fucking, we actually have someone who attended. Can you hear me, Fursu?
Oh yeah, I can hear you.
Oh
he's
wow,
got a nice mic as well.
He's got a nice microphone. This is fucking seriously. This has real potential. Don't fuck this up. This could be an epic call. No pressure, Fursu. So anyway, you went to ESL Dubai. You said you attended every day. Tell us about it. What's it been like?
Well, actually, I'd like to speak about a lot of different things about the event because there's so as you may all know, there was two parts to the actual whole venue. There was Games 15, which is the annual gaming convention that is held in Dubai. It's pretty much a wannabe E3 Gamescom kind of thing, right? Except it's usually run inside basically a big air-conditioned tent, and there's lots of problems, badly managed, etc. Like, I went there the third day and I wanted to play, like, let's say, just Cause 3. Servers were down, couldn't play the game. They had a Fallout 4 booth.
Right.
You would be able to play Fallout Shelter there. Like what the actual hell? But otherwise, speaking about the actual ESL event, so basically you could be able to buy those tickets. They were so-called early bird tickets, which you could buy for like $20, which would be you could get in the arena for 1 day only. So those were the early bird tickets. A lot of people, what they did is that they would buy the early bird ticket. They would be like 3, and then that way they'd be able to get in for 3 days for a way more discounted price. But of course, those are limited tickets, so you can get them. Myself, I bought a. Actually, if you want, I could send you a screenshot of the ticket.
Yeah, sure, do that.
Just a sec.
Awesome. I'm sure Sam will bring it up while we're talking as well. Thanks very much.
All right. Thank you very much for having me, by the way. It's
awesome to get you on. I was super excited. I mean, you could tell by my very rarely I make noises like that. Usually when I get out of bed in the morning. But I really wanted to go and see how this event panned out, because I don't know if you caught the last show. I actually had some reservations about whether or not we really needed to be expanding into Dubai. Maybe there was other regions that might have worked out a bit better, but we'll get into that at the end of your call. So anyway, I'm sure Sam will bring this ticket up, but tell us about it. So there was an early bird ticket, but that only got you in for 1 day for the first day, right?
Yes. All right. And I've got the prices. So once the early bird tickets run out, you'd be able to purchase what would be called a bronze ticket, which was also $20, except that got you in only to the actual Games 15 conference. You wouldn't be allowed in the ESL arena. That was $20. Then if you wanted to get in the actual arena, you'd have to buy a so-called silver ticket, which is 200 dirhams, which is the local currency, which is about $68.
Right.
So that would get you in for 1 day, and you'd have to purchase like 3 of them to get in for each day. Then what I purchased is the screenshot I just sent you. That's a 500 dirham ticket, which is $136. There are no added benefits. It's just like you can get in for the 3 days. That's basically what it means when you have that.
Okay.
And then there's the go ahead.
No, I was just going to say. So I mean, I guess the follow-on question from that would be, I mean, this does sound kind of a little bit high priced. I mean, to put it in context, for ESL 1 Cologne, they were charging, I think it was about 200 euros for a premier ticket, but that got you entrance to the venue every day, all day. It gave you seats right in the front row next to the big screens and closer to the players, and it also gave you unlimited alcohol and 3 meals a day.
And a goodie bag, which was worth like 60 euros as well. So
yeah.
And a t-shirt and stuff in.
Oh, no, I would definitely agree with you. I mean, like, just to put it in context with, like, the next major coming out, DreamHack Cluj, Napoca, that's $17 to get in.
I mean, where is it, though?
Sam? Don't do it, Thorin. Don't do it, Thorin. I got a chance at working this major, motherfucker. Don't fuck it up for me. Keep your political views to yourself.
I'm sure excited to see you guys there anyway. So next up is the VIP ticket. Now hold on to your chair on this one. All right. So it's $272, and I got it for you in euros, of course, 240 euros. So with that, what you got is you basically got to sit in a terrace, right? And for every like autograph session or whatever, you would get to basically get in first before all the scrubs that didn't have enough money for it. So
and that's the benefit.
Yes, that's a benefit. I'm not a fan of VIP tickets, but I do realize that if you pay that much money, you should have some kind of benefit, not like this bullshit. Does it matter if I swear, by the way, or?
No. Jesus Christ! This
excellent.
So there was no other tangible benefit to it for all that extra money.
Actually,
you've got to beat queues.
If you had a VIP ticket and you were 21 years old or above, you would get access to a VIP lounge. Now, I couldn't get in there, so I couldn't be able to tell you what was up there. But it's basically a sky bar, I'm assuming.
So hang on. So one of the perks was access to a VIP lounge you couldn't gain access to. So why couldn't you gain access to it?
Well, first of all, because I don't have a VIP ticket. But if I would have a VIP ticket, I wouldn't have been able to get to that lounge anyway because I'm not 21 years old.
Ah, right. So it was only for 21. So it makes me wonder what was in there. Right, maybe some secret distillery or
Esports
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
the
you know.
craziest shit
Yeah.
Dubai has to offer.
Well,
Yeah.
to put it in context as well, one thing they did at every game, one of the big sponsors of this Games 15 thing is a brand called Barbican, which is a brand of, actually they sell actual beer, alcoholic beer.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
Barbican actually. Yeah.
Yeah, but in Dubai they have a separate line of drinks which are non-alcoholic beers that are like flavored. There's like malt flavor, apple flavor basically, but they're like completely non-alcoholic, and those are given out for free at the event, and they were at the event. But at this 21-year-old bar, I'm assuming they weren't serving just Barbican.
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, tell me about the experience inside and what it was like to watch and spectate. Because I know on day one, the event got absolutely ripped because they had to use online casters. There was delays. The venue that it started in, that part of the venue at least didn't look particularly great, but it actually did pick up once they got to the sort of the main show and got their stuff in order. So, do you as a spectator? I mean, was it good? Do you feel you got value for money? Do you was there anything that stood out to you as being either positive or negative?
Well, I can't really go into points because I would have to tell you like step by step my experience like throughout the whole thing. So do you want me to do it that
I don't
way?
mind. We got
All right,
time.
okay.
We got time.
So basically, the first day, I came in early because I mean I've been playing CS since I was like probably like 5 years old. I play competitively. I have a team right now, and it was just like it was huge for me. Like I don't think the Middle East is that big in terms of competitive gaming, but for me, I was really happy. All right, let's just put it that way. So I came in early, like 2 hours early, first in queue. No one there, and I was just like standing here in the heat, like 36 to 40 degrees Celsius. I was just there like for 2 hours just waiting because I really wanted to get in first. And so I was in this queue, and then once I was like looking, they were basically setting up the stage and stuff, and I was really surprised because there were no chairs. First of all, it was an outdoor event. I was kind of surprised about that, kind of pissed a bit because I thought we deserved more, but I mean, I understand. That's fine. All right, whatever. But there were no chairs. They just like brought a bunch of bean bags, just put them on the ground, and I was like, okay, so we're gonna be sitting on bean bags. Nice. And then so basically the VIPs that came in, they got to get in first in the arena at 6 p.m. But before that, one thing, we were not able to look at any of the games that were held inside that backstage area of the studio. So all the group stages that were not held in the actual arena, we didn't get to see that. There was no screen, no Twitch stream available like anywhere. Wow. We did not get to see any of those streams. And I heard, I can't tell because I didn't see the games, but I heard that apparently they bought like some random amateur casters, like emergency.
The casters were pulled up at the last minute, and I hadn't seen any of their work before. They didn't really stand out to me as being high caliber. But that said, I'm willing to give them a pass because if you get the phone call last minute, like, hey,
oh yeah, definitely,
we need somebody to cast this huge tournament. You've done some stuff at ESEA. Obviously, ESL and ESEA have a partnership. We need you to dig us out of this hole. Even if you wanted to say no because you know the community are going to fucking shit on you, you're not going to say no because it means that the future chances of employment are going to dry the fuck up. So, I totally get why they, would do it, even though it was pretty poor, actually.
Yeah. I hope the community didn't shit on them like completely because like people need to understand what went down here. I mean,
well, of course they did.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw the Reddit thread and it was just like, I don't get me wrong. I think a lot of the anger was directed at ESL, but
yeah,
the one thing I've never understood is, like caster hate. Like we right. We never put people in a hierarchy. We never say like, Anders is the best and when Anders and Semler are together, that's the best duo. And then, next for me, I like this guy and I like this guy. And then it gets to the bottom and you put other people down there. We never do that. What we just do is we say you're either shit or you're the best. Shit or the best. That's it. It's like a binary thing. You're either shit, as in never cast again, or you're the best. And you have to do every event. So this actually is a real problem for us moving forward because, let's say Anders has got a kid now. Let's say he can't do events, and he's the best, right? So, like, who do we use next? Well, we're not saying he's the second best. He's good. She's good. We're not saying that. We're just saying everyone else is shit. So, you're in for a bad time when you think like that. So I've never got it. Like, I've never really got it. But yeah, they did get shot on a little bit in the community. It sucked.
My issue is like, I mean, Like, yeah, it's an emergency. Dude, you have Anders, you have Moses, you have Pansy, you have like tons of people there. Why aren't you using their services, their expertise? What are they getting paid for? Why did you bring them here if you were getting like random casters like in the middle of them? Like,
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I definitely agree with that. Considering ESL has a stable of talent, for them not to use that same said stable does seem a bit ridiculous. I can't speculate about the reasons behind it. I don't know, but it seems to me really, really stupid. You know, that would be like, I know, if Face It planned an event and then they were just like, yeah, but you know, James Bardolph and DDK aren't here, and we're going to use two random cunts from the internet for no reason. Like, you know, it's very strange. ESL has a bunch of people that could have stepped up to the plate and done something. I mean, hell, I'm pretty sure Joe Miller must have been out there. So, you know, he would have been somebody that could have rolled back the years, and actually, it would have turned a day one loss into a day one win. You know, can you imagine that? Oh, our regular casters aren't able to cast, so Joe Miller's coming out of retirement. Or they could have reached out to Red Eye. You know, Red Eye's, you know, working at Gfinity, and that, you know, as far as I know, I don't think ESL and Gfinity have a bad relationship. And Red Eye's still got a lot of friends at ESL. Why not get Red Eye out of retirement? And again, you turn it into a win. You turn it into an event. So these are the sort of thought processes that rarely seem to happen at ESL. I think ESL, it's almost like, I don't want to criticize them too much, but I think that they believe that there's never gonna. They don't need a plan B. They're so good, they don't need a backup plan. And then when mistakes invariably happen, they haven't got one in place.
Yeah, and then coming up to the actual like group stage part where we actually got to spectate. So before I went in the arena, I saw two people come towards like us the exit. So first of all, one thing I want to say: the players and the whoever was involved, right, the staff, everyone. They didn't actually have a chance to have like a separate area where they could go like eat food or whatever. Like they had to pass through the arena and then exit from there. So who came out? Heaton and Per Lilifeth, which is he's the CEO of NIP basically.
Yeah.
And I was really excited to meet Heaton. And basically security they kind of got over us and they didn't allow us to even like even speak to them basically. I understand the reasons of that, so I'm not going to criticize that. Possibly positive for them, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, they went to go get a smoke or like get food or whatever. And so when we got into the actual arena, I actually saw Getright sitting like in the middle of the arena on one of the beanbags, getting interviewed by, I believe, the interviewer of Navi. I think that interview is actually up. You can see it, and like he's literally being interviewed, and behind him, there's like a bunch of kids that literally come up and like grab beanbags, start running around and stuff. Like it's kind of ridiculous. That shouldn't. I don't know why Getright was in the middle of that arena when people like randomly got in. I just don't know why that happened. Anyway, so we were there waiting, of course, for the streams to get set up, the players to come out, the computers to get set up, etc. And we didn't have any glimpse at any players or whatever at that point in time. And then Apex and Nothing came out, and basically there was this kind of fence. Fence separating the backstage area from the actual arena, so people couldn't actually come out without going through security. So Nothing and Apex passed through security, and basically Nothing got pretty much mugged. Like thousands of kids got to him, but it was nice. Nothing bad happened. Basically, like it was just really nice. Nothing didn't actually have to come out. It was great, and everyone took pictures. Everything went nicely, and then they just went back.
Were there organized opportunities to meet players and have them sign autographs and stuff? I mean, because what they did very well at ESL One Cologne is they had it organized. So it was like you knew, 3:00 today, if you want to go get something signed by a member of Cloud9, you go to this meeting point and you queue up and you get to meet them and they sign your T-shirts and stuff. And it was announced so everybody knew. Was there anything like that at Dubai?
Yeah, I'll get into that in the second and third day.
Okay, cool.
There was actually a schedule that was given to you once you got like your ticket from the actual venue. When they give you the ticket, they give you like a little book with like the schedule and everything. So for the second day, there was they called it Meet the Team. They called it Meet the Team, and it was at 1 p.m. the second day and 1 p.m. the third day as well. So I'll get into that. It kind of turned into a fuck up. Okay. So when the game started, it was nice. Everyone watched, and it was basically really cool. And then some players have, like came out. I know TSM came out and they took pictures. Like they basically came out of the fence to go get food, kind of, and then they kind of stopped to look at the game. And everyone basically took pictures. Like everything went really nice in that regards. And Seized and Edward came out during the Fnatic versus damn it, no, the NVS versus VP game. I believe they came out. They didn't want to take pictures. I'm not gonna say anything about that because I mean they went through like a shitstorm in Gaming Paradise. So I'm not even gonna give I'm not even gonna yeah, like let's not give them shit for that. um, Taz, after the game, he came out. He went like next to the fence and he took pictures of everyone. Olafmeister, before the game was even set up, actually, because like nothing was happening. They were just basically busy setting up the computers. He was really nice about it. He's like, okay, nothing's happening. I'm just gonna go down to the fence. He was of course separated from the crowd. He's in direct contact. And he's like, give me your mouse pad, give me your T-shirt, give me blah blah blah. And he started signing everyone's shit basically. So really nice from him. And then they went on and played the game. So one thing that happened regularly, I know a lot of people said, "Oh yeah, there was one delay, 2 days." No, there were numerous delays because of that VAC authentication error, which you can't really blame ESL for. Just an issue with the actual game. So there was one of them that was actually not a VAC authentication error, and I don't know if they talked about that. But basically, DU, which is one of the ISPs, internet service providers in Dubai. They're majorly sponsoring the event. They're like advertising one of their new package deals or whatever. I believe they had like an unexpected service maintenance or something, and like all their networks went down like in the middle of the game. So yeah,
Nice.
Yeah, and the thing is that those kinds of delays, you can't help but get pissed because the team just loses momentum like in the middle of the game like that. It just completely wrecks the event, in my opinion. Like. I don't know. I just think it's unfortunate, and so that was basically the end of the first day. I'm just gonna give a quick talk about food. I actually talked about that in the Reddit AMA I'm doing. Like, you guys can just like look it up real quick, everyone in the chat. I said that basically the foods, they were like 4 or 5 like basically food stands like that were like in the middle of between going from the actual gaming expo to the arena. So there were like food stands there, and there's an actual air conditioned area that was indoors and where you could eat and whatnot. And I saw Pansy and a lot of people go through there, and that was actually where the indoor VIP lounge was at. You would just have to go upstairs and like go get that, go to the lounge from there. So that was basically the end of the first day. So I talked about everything. About the like actual production crew. So I don't know if you guys know the host of the tournament was Sean Charles, of course.
Yeah.
Really cool guy. Like he came out all the time, and it was really good. It kind of got out of control at one point because like the crowd was literally like moving him and like mugging him. And
yeah,
stuff.
I saw him. I mean, get kissed on that video by a kid. But here's the thing about Sean. One thing I will say is, I think he's like a massively underrated host in esports. I actually like what he does. I know a lot of people say his style can be a bit cheesy or whatever, and he relies on certain phrases and stuff. But what you have to understand is like it takes a lot of fucking balls to be able to like actually stand in amongst the crowd and be doing what you're trying to do and be able to concentrate and everything else. So I think the guy's like a fucking absolute legend, and he's one of the few people I think who could do that and stay focused and stay on point. And you saw he didn't even get flustered, you know. Kid comes out of the crowd and kisses him on the fucking cheek, you know what I mean? Still just doing his job. So definite hats off to him. I thought he did excellent for the event.
Of course. One thing that I was kind of bothered about, and I believe, okay, so basically the every pretty much big event that goes on in Dubai has to be somewhat approved by the municipality, the government here. And I believe I'm like almost certain one of the clauses of like the contract with whoever was giving them the approval to actually host this was to just basically say Dubai is amazing, because it was being emphasized at every second of the event. Like every time they came out on stage, it was like, oh, Dubai is amazing. Look at all these skyscrapers. Like, we get it, okay?
Yeah,
we get it. Dubai is amazing. Move on. It was every second of the show. Like, we get it. Please stop.
How did the crowd react to that stuff? Because, you know, it's like, obviously, if you ever want to get a cheap round of applause, as someone that used to do stand-up, I know this is like the fallback, right? Whatever shit town you're in. It's great to be here in Telford. Yeah, woo! I live in Telford. Woo! That's how you get the applause. So were the crowd warming to that? Did they seem to like that?
Coming up to your main point of, do we need an esports presence in the Middle East or in Dubai? The crowd was virtually inexistent. If you look at the streams, most of the time, like when they switch the stream, like, hey, Dubai, how are you? And then they would switch, like, pan out, and like no one would move. It was pretty sad, but
yeah. Well, no, but I noticed that a bunch of times. But look, I don't know enough about the subtleties of linguistics in Saudi Arabia.
United Arab Emirates.
United Arab Emirates and all the Emirati regions, to know whether or not I imagine they all speak English. I mean, that's what I like to imagine, but that could be completely fucking ignorant on my part. I mean, it's not a part of the world I've been to, nor have any interest in going to, frankly. So were the Emirati people, are they literate English speakers? I mean, do they understand? Because we had a similar problem, and no one talks about it. We had a similar problem at PGL in Bucharest. I don't know if anyone saw the when I say Cajun, you say B clip.
Fucking hilarious.
I know.
I was in the crowd for that as well. I was just pissing myself.
Yeah.
When I say Cajun, you say nah.
Yeah, it literally like, when we say Cajun, you say B, and people just said fuck all. That's what they said. They were just doing it. It was really awkward, and there was just this silence. But that was predicated on language, not that they didn't want to join in or whatever. They just didn't know what the fuck was going on. They did,
Dubai,
yeah.
You would have to be literate in English because this is a very multicultural city, and like 18% of the population are actually Emirati locals, like citizens. The rest, like 80%, are all expatriates that came here for work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you would have to be literate in English, and I imagine most, like 99% of them were. So that's fine. But my opinion is that a lot of people actually, I kind of put myself as like an unofficial like kind of guide because there was a lot of people coming in the queue since I was first in the queue. Like, what is this for? Like, what's going on here? Is there a concert going on? And I was like, no, this is a Counter-Strike tournament. And then people would be like, oh, okay, and then they would just leave, or like they would be like, oh, what? And then like, do they get to win prizes? And then when I'd say, yeah, $100,000 for their first prize, then they would be like really surprised. So. Like most people that were there were just there because either they had money and they were bored, or like they just liked Pasha. That was pretty much it. There's a huge.
Oh, there's a lot of Pasha fans were there.
Yeah,
right.
Basically, if you look at some of the clips, where the crowd was actually going crazy, I had a few of my friends that were new. I was actually like getting everyone hyped kind of because it was really sad. I was like, whenever NIP would like do a great play, I would just keep shouting NIP. Like my vocal cords are completely dead. I don't know if you can tell by my voice right, but I was shouting.
I think people like your voice. It works for you. The chat is saying you've got a great voice, so you should stay like that.
Well, thank you.
Don't get better.
Morgan Freeman. But so anyway, so I was just trying my best to make this an enjoyable event because I have a deep passion and love for Counter-Strike, and it was just heartbreaking to see like Neo get a 4K and no one would react. It was just ridiculous in my opinion. And but yeah, other than that, like the crowd was virtually inexistent, but when you try hard, they would get there. Okay, end of day one. I'll make sure this isn't a long call for you. Sorry. So day two. All right, day two. So there was this, as I said, meet the team thing at 1 p.m. So I came at like 11 a.m. I was just like completely hyped because I wanted to be the first in queue, be the first to meet the teams and such. So I went in the queue. I was there for like literally 3 hours waiting. And then they started making like a VIP line or whatever for people to go first. And then after like 30 minutes after 1 p.m. had passed, like one of the quote-unquote organizers, who wasn't a part of ESL, by the way, all those people. Oh, by the way, at Games 15, they make maybe like, judging by the price of the tickets, and about like 30,000 people attending each year, estimately. They make probably around like 1 million to 5 million dirhams profit out of this, and all of their staff are volunteers. They're not paid.
So there was a lot of volunteer staff there, was there?
Yeah, all of the staff that weren't part of ESL that were for Games 15 were all unpaid volunteers.
Was there one company, or did they just literally sign up on a forum, or how did it work? Like how did they get the volunteers? Do you know?
Actually, I know that one of the organizers of Games 15 went on Reddit, actually, and he on R Dubai, and he actually put a post up and said, if you want to sign up, like email us here, or like go to this website or whatever, and that's how you would sign up, and you would get like a free attendance for 3 days to all the events, and you'd get like on your work resume, yeah, I've attended this, and I was a volunteer or whatever.
Right. I see.
So anyway, when I was in queue after like 30 minutes after 1 p.m. had passed, so I'd been there for like maybe 2 or 3 hours and 30 minutes in that queue waiting. An organizer came out and said, "Hey guys, yeah, the teams aren't here. This is postponed for tomorrow." So I remember during that I checked Twitter and the Cloud9 were actually like touring Burj Khalifa at the time, so like being toured around Dubai and stuff. So I don't know what's going on, if their management is horrible, if it was badly organized, or if no one was actually aware there was a Meet the Teams at that point. I mean, the booklet said there would be a Meet the Team at 1 p.m. I was there and was postponed for the next day. So okay. Moving on. So went to the games once again. Watched the games. You know, it was just the normal thing. Bean bags. Watched the stage and delay because of VAC errors, etc. But overall, I mean, for me at least, since I'm a Counter-Strike fan, it was enjoyable to me. It wasn't optimal, but it was enjoyable. One thing about the heat that people are concerned about. So there were these big AC units, like probably the size of a wardrobe, pretty much, that were right behind the each one of the players that were pumping air into their backs. In my opinion, it was probably freezing in there because that would be pretty cold. Yeah. But I know that Taz said that one person in the Reddit AMA said he went full Dubai. He said that in the on stage. So he turned his AC off because he said it was annoying to him that it was hot in his face and in his back it was cold. I'm sure there was a discussion between. Actually, I know that there was a discussion between the organizers. They talked about if they should put the ACs in front or behind the players. First of all, there should be no discussion. If you're going to put your AC units in front of the players, what's the point? The players won't have any interaction with the crowd. What are you doing? At the back, again, the problem with that. So the optimal thing would have just been an indoor booth. So to me, this kind of proves that this event was mostly rushed. Like they just came here, got the money, left. Because if you didn't plan that kind of thing, complete rush. So yeah, there was that, and then the games went on. So the arena, there was of course in that it was still the group stage in group 2 because we had the elimination matches and such. So there were actually studio games until 6 p.m. and then at 6 p.m. the arena would be open. You could go, and it would last until 2 in the morning.
Right.
Okay. So that's the end of day 2. Day 3. So that's today, actually. So I came, same thing. I came 3 hours early for the Meet the Teams thing, and I stayed in the queue first. And then someone that was basically managing the stage at Game 15 there, he came out and he said, all right, so we have a very special guest coming here. You can see there are tables and chairs, so something is happening. So a team is coming here to meet you guys, and they're ninjas in pajamas. And I was really happy because I'm an NIP fan. So I've been watching them for years. Forrest, I've been following him since like 2007 basically, and so I was really excited. And so NIP he like the organizer basically had literally no idea who NIP were, what CSGO is, like pretty much he just had like a very vague idea. He was asking like do you know what games they play, and we were like, okay, CSGO, and he was like, okay. And then yeah, exactly, like it was I was getting
that seems ridiculous.
Yeah, and then he actually said at one point, I'm kind of taking this out of context because he kind of made this up as a joke, but I feel it was completely out of place. He said, by the way, there's a Call of Duty tournament going on over there. Like, dude, just fuck off. Like, shut up.
yeah. Not the time.
Yeah, and then he said he will be doing like a short Q&A, like a short interview, and he asked the crowd, like, what question should I ask them? And at that point, I was like, okay, time to mess with him because he knows nothing. So I just told him, ask the bearded guy, so Forrest, because he has the most prominent beard, of course. I told him, ask him what his config is. So he had no idea what a config was, obviously, but he went for it, and it was pretty much a laugh for me and for Forrest, I imagine. So yeah, that's that. And then we got to meet the team. So the VIPs got in first, of course, like 50 VIPs, 8-year-old kids pretty much went in, met Nip, and then I finally went in and got my mousepad signed, met each of the players. By the way, NIP are really nice people for everyone in the chat. They just went out of the way to sign for everyone, take pictures with everyone. Forrest actually went out of his way to take a picture with me at the end of the signing session because I hadn't had the time to take a picture with him, and then NIP actually took me like behind the stage to get a picture with all of them because I didn't get a picture with them, and they were just really nice about everything. And then the next team that was there that was announced was Cloud9, and they did their signing sessions, take pictures with everyone, etc. And that was it. No other team was there. So I was really happy because I got my Nip signature, I got my Nip pictures. I'm a happy man. What about the people that were fans of Envious, that were fans of Titan, fans of Virtus Pro, fans of Navi? They got nothing.
Yeah. So why do you have any insight as to why not all the teams were doing these signings? Because I'm pretty sure it's ESL want them to be mandatory for all teams, all organizations to do it, and that certainly was the impression I got of the ESL One Cologne. I can't think of one team that didn't do a signing, and I think Fnatic even went and did two because they did an impromptu one after they won the final, and it was immediately after their press conference. So, any insight as to why some teams didn't do it and some did?
Actually, I'm going to go ahead and call that like bad organization or like zero control over the event because so first of all, even judging by the delay of yesterday, like Cloud9 were like in a completely different place. They had no idea this was going on and they had to postpone it. That just tells me that like bad organization from there on. At the end of day 2, so the day before the NIP and Cloud9 came out to sign, so the day before that, at the end of the NIP versus TSM game, NIP were supposed to come out near the barrier and like do signings and stuff. Like we were told by one of the organizers to queue up at the end of the best of 3. By the way, one little anecdote about the crowd as well. So the CS:GO community kind of has this thing where people say, comebacks can always happen. Like we have seen this. It's been proved. Like it just happens. That's how CS:GO is. And like it was literally 15-10, I think, and the game ended at 16-12, I believe. The last map on NIP versus TSM. At 15-10. Pretty much half the crowd was at the fence lining up because they were like, okay, this is over.
And
anyway, NIP didn't come, and I'm just gonna say they were really down because they lost or whatever. I don't know. I can't say. It's just one speculation. But I mean, if they were supposed to come, they probably should have come. And the organizer just came out and told us, they're not here. I honestly don't know why they left. That's all he said. And so, I'm just going to say the team's not being here or whatever, probably because they had no control over them actually coming or whatever. Like, I imagine the teams that lost day 1, that had to go home day 1, like, they probably took the first plane and left. I don't know. Yeah. They were probably on tour in Dubai. I'll just put it out there, like, because most of them are touring Dubai.
Overall, do you feel, that you got value for money, you had a positive experience? Do you think that there's enough promise there to say that if we did another event in this region, it would be well received, it would be better, we could get better crowds, more interest? I mean, what are your sort of overall final prevailing thoughts about it?
Well, this is kind of this just is so conflicting to me because I'm biased. I'm an NIP fan. It was just such an enormous experience for me to have them randomly come out here and just like get to meet them and everything. I was just so happy.
Yeah.
But definitely overpriced. The value just, it was there. It just could have been way better in my opinion. And like, okay, I don't know if some of you know this, but okay, there are matchmaking Dubai servers. I don't play in these, and I get 5 ping in them. I'd rather play on Europe with my teammate at 100 to 160 ping because I don't want to get queued with those people. Most of them are hackers. Literally everyone is a hacker. They don't care if they get banned. They have money. They just can buy another account. They don't care. Second of all, they just don't play CS to play CS. They all just fuck around. They troll. They shout at each other. They swear at each other. They have no teamwork. Like, I mean, I know this is like really stupid, okay, but I could literally say that a global there would probably be considered a Nova or Master Guardian in the Europe region. I know this is a bad comparison, but I'm just putting that out there.
I've heard similar things about. I got friends who obviously work for companies out in Malaysia, where there's a lot of gaming peripheral companies, and they say the same thing about that region. They say it's like a fucking nightmare. Like, even when you're playing in the highest echelons there in global, it's like you can't believe the shit you're seeing. So.
Yeah, and that's the problem for me because I hope to be semi-professional like at one point, and like seeing this in Dubai is just like I have to play at 120 ping to get a good experience in Counter-Strike. So this region, it's rising in gaming. Like, you have to say there's a lot of people that want to buy games here. There's a lot of people that have gaming consoles. Like, everyone here is pretty much every teenager here plays video games. Competitive though, competitive scene, competitive games, I just don't see it here. I don't think there's a mentality for it. I don't think I just don't think it can work here. Competitive gaming.
Okay. Well, look, man, we're gonna move on to one last call, but I just want to say, look, thanks for a very thorough breakdown of the event. As I said, I wasn't able to go. I genuinely didn't really have an interest in going, actually, which that might not sound like a very professional thing to say, but it's got nothing to even do with me sort of, thinking ESL were necessarily going to put on a bad event, but I kind of subscribe to your way of thinking. I just don't know if Dubai is anything other than an exercise in trying to impress people with money. And I think there's other regions, Eastern European regions, South American regions, that definitely deserve the opportunity and companies putting money into their economy and their infrastructure, not just for esports, but the bigger picture than Dubai. I mean, that's just how I feel about it. So
one final line of thought for some people that I know,
Sure.
like, are on this whole bandwagon of like the workers, bad conditions here. Yeah, that happens, but you have to like it's just such a different and complex problem that I can't really address it here. One thing though, just putting that out there. The people that were in charge of security there, so not actually like volunteers or whatever, paid security workers there that were in charge of the security. Well, obviously most of them are Asian immigrants or whatever, but they were there in the heat the whole day from like the morning to the end. They were just like they had like water in the middle of the day. They were bought like bottles of water, but they were there in like 36 degrees, 40 degrees like heat. And I talked to one of them, and I know he was being paid like of course this has the company, it's a private company, it's not like it doesn't have any affiliation, like a direct affiliation to ESL or Games 15, whatever. They were a hired company, but I'm just putting that out there. At this event there were security workers that were hired and they were paid. Of course someone told me that, okay, one of them told me that, so I can't know for sure and I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but they were paid apparently let me just convert $544 a month. Yep. And,
Sam makes more than that. I fucking pay him in sandwiches.
Well, yeah.
Fucking
Anyway, so
terrible.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, man.
Hey, no worries.
I hope I can come back.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely do. I think everybody, wants to thank you for your diligence, and we appreciate it. Anytime you want to talk about anything else related to esports, this is the show to do it. So look after yourself, and no doubt we'll speak in the future.
All right, thank you. Keep being awesome.
No
Thank you, everyone, for having me, and I'll see you later. Morgan Freeman.
Peace out. Take care. There we go. So what a lovely chap, Sam.
What a nice guy.
What a nice guy. And I am right. That security guard does make more a month than you.
No, you said I make more than him. I do make more than him, mate. We're not
No,
quite
that's what I mean. Yeah,
we're
sorry,
not quite
sorry,
that
sorry.
deep in poverty.
No, yeah, we're not. You're right. You do. It's about evens, I think, isn't it?
No, mate, if we were making the same, I might have killed myself by now.
That's what I'm trying to. That's what I'm going for, actually. Because then I get
me over the edge.
Yeah, then I get the tragedy money. Like I get to come out and do a trash talk, and it's like
don't have to share half a Patreon anymore.
we do the slow music. So it's like like super slow, and it's just a black screen. And it just cuts to me, and it's like Sam Davis is no longer with us. He was pushed over the edge after years of being overworked, underpaid,
and overweight.
By the way, mate.
Oh, here we go.
Didn't we have a bet?
Did we?
No, you're right. Wrong. It was for Worlds. It was for Worlds. Right. That photo needs to be out there, mate.
Yeah.
The photo of you on the plane is fucking too good.
If Fnatic don't make the final,
yeah. If they don't make the
picture,
final, we're gonna release that picture. Yeah.
Fucking hell.
It's so good. I mean, did you show people last week the first one though?
Yeah.
Have you just slumped over in the chair? You should bring that up again, because it's fucking so funny. Like, I just get that up on my fucking screen right now. We're going nowhere until I see that. It's fucking unreal. Like, it's just the way your forehead's like, bruh, like straight into the chair. Like, it's
I've had enough, but
he's had enough.
I have had more than enough.
Tell you what. Oh shit! Hang on then. Before we do our last caller, let's just play this. I do love it. Like, all right, let me just find it. You bring that picture.
This picture. There it is.
Yeah. You bring it up, man. You bring it up.
He's had enough. Get him out.
Yeah, that's what we need. Like, I've got to find that clip, mate.
Which one?
Get him out.
All right.
Find it. I demand that this is on the show. Just find it. Quicker! Have you got it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's this bit in here.
Yeah, I found it, but it's 5 minutes long. But
Don't care, just play it, but get it on. Right, so this is basically kind of how I like to treat Sam before a show. So you'll be able to tell which one I am. I'm the naked one in this video.
actually playing 5 minutes of this.
Mate, we're just doing it. We're just doing it. Come on.
Hang on.
Help me, Neil. Get
Help
it
me,
on.
Neil. Quicker. Alright, you have to wait 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I know, and it is quite frightening. Actually, there are some weird similarities. A lot of people do think I am your father, and we met. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, it'd be like the most fucked up thing ever if it was true. And logistically, it can work. Like age-wise, it can all marry up. You know, like
Can it? This?
In Port Talbot, it definitely can. Yeah.
Anything is possible.
Anything is possible, man. We've got 12-year-old grandmothers in Port Talbot. Like, it's fucking unreal. Anyway, right, let's get this clip on. So as I said, this is how me and Sam like to prepare for a show.
Still waiting, sec. We're not ready yet. Mate, you've just sprung it on me like 10 seconds ago.
Live TV, motherfucker. That's how it's meant to be, like.
Yeah, live TV. Let's just play this copyrighted clip. That means
quicker,
you'll now have to download this VOD and cut it out so we can earn our pennies.
Quicker.
Wait, I don't control the internet speed. Come the fuck on.
You're better than this. All right, well, I'm just gonna talk about what Among You are then until you get it up. No, not really. We can just cut this pause out with the VOD. Doesn't even matter. I don't even need to entertain these cunts. Fuck them.
No.
Thanks for the Patreon money, though, guys.
Right, there we go. We're ready.
Right, let's do it. So as I said, me and Sam preparing for a show. I'm the guy with no clothes on. Oh, fucking God. Well, quicker!
How good was that fucking production work, mate? He saved a ban.
Oh man, so fucking funny. Like, anyway, so that's why that's literally what we do before every show. That greases up my ass with my when we go to war.
Mate,
so.
Like literally 2 minutes in this clip, Richard especially. This has a knob in it. We're getting banned. Fuck you.
Oh fuck me, man.
I don't think I let any knob out anyway, mate. I think we're safe. If anything, there might have been one cheek escaped.
Well done, mate. Well,
fucking
right.
hell.
Anyway, let's get one more call done, and then I can enjoy San Francisco. So who we got, and what do they want to talk about?
Next we have Harris Peskin, and he wants to talk about the esports conference had the team owners advocating a players union, yet didn't actually have any players. Ultimately, I feel the two parties do not have interests that align.
Okay, yeah, I think he's right. So this should be a fairly quick call, I imagine. We're going to agree. It's the good old echo chamber. But Harris, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Another great microphone. What a great day for it. So look, Harris, the point you make obviously is a very salient one. There was lots of talk during this esports conference about player unions. This is something that's been talked about in excess, I would say, at the moment. There's a lot of hot button topics that are coming up. And yet here we are, and we're talking about the importance of a players' union utilizing the opinions and expertise of team owners who, as I've said many times over, ultimately it's their they make their living by leveraging and, you could argue, exploiting the talents of players. So I agree with you. I don't think their interests align, but why don't you tell me what you think about it?
First of all, whatever clip we just watched, that was absolutely incredible.
Oh man, check out Bronson. Okay, so just to put it in perspective, this is a guy. He was called I can't even fucking remember his real name, but he changed his name to Charles Bronson when he was in prison. He has been in prison for life, most of it in solitary confinement, and all he tried to do was rob a post office. But every time he was in prison, he would just beat the shit out of people. He'd take guards hostage. He wrote an autobiography called Laughing All the Way to the Crematorium. I strongly recommend people check it out. And that movie's fucking brilliant. It was one of the first performances that really made me sort of stand up and take notice of Tom Hardy. And yes, you do get to see his penis. So it's got a bit of everything in there. So
the editing was just insane. Yeah.
Really good.
So Yeah, for those of you that don't know, I'm also an esports attorney. There's many of us now sprouting up. I would say that with regards to the players' union issue, when I was watching the esports conference, I was feeling a little bit I was a bit confused as to why there were team owners on stage talking about the need for a players' union when ultimately it's my opinion that their interests really just they don't align. I feel that if anyone should have been up on that stage talking about the need for a players' union, it should have been the player because ultimately not necessarily those owners in particular,
Yeah.
but ultimately the owners are the ones that are on the other side of that contract, right? They're the ones handing out the contracts which are maybe taking too much advantage of those players. So I feel that the players really should have been strongly represented at that conference, and there really weren't any players there that we could reference to say that they really were they were I guess advocating on their own behalf.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I mean, I think the thing that worries me most of all about this idea is I keep hearing this repeated phrase. And I believe this might be true for some people, but my experience tells me it's certainly not true in all cases. And arguably, the majority of the time, in my experience, it's not true. And the repeated phrase was, we as managers obviously need to represent the interests of our players. And it's this repeated phrase. Now, that's true in principle, but in practice, it absolutely isn't. For example, if you're running a business, it's only natural that the you understand employees come and go. You cannot invest completely in the interests of your employees. You have to invest in the best interests of the business. And this is what we see when we take it to extreme conclusions. This is effectively, obviously, the model for some of the most disgusting capitalist excesses. Think Coca-Cola, for example, who turn a blind eye to trade union representatives being killed in their bottling plant in Bogota, and then saying, "Hey, they're just subcontractors of ours. We've only got one office in globally, so we can't be held accountable for that." Most recently, there was a report from Amazon, which I can't remember, a report on Amazon, I should say, which talked about the working conditions for people in Amazon, and it was horrendous. They were interviewing people, and they were like, I can't go a single day without seeing people cry at their desk. You're expected to answer the phone at anything up to midnight, even after your shift is finished. And if you don't, you can be disciplined for not doing this. And of course, Amazon management came out and basically said, we don't see it that way. We see a hardworking, diligent company that actually has incredibly high morale. Well, of course, who do you trust in this instance? Do you trust the CEO, or do you trust 100 employees that were interviewed off the record by a journalist, an independent journalist? So I think when it comes to this idea that, that the managers are always going to look after the interests of players while simultaneously looking after the interests of their business, I just don't see how that can align. You want to get away with paying them as little as you can while paying them enough so they stay and believe they get a good deal. The largest portion of sponsor money, it doesn't go straight into a player's hands. It goes on operational costs, travel expenses. The managers, of course, pay themselves a salary. And because they own the business, it's at their discretion what they put in and what they take out. And again, I stress, not all managers are slick con artists, but there's a lot of people who get into esports solely with the idea of making a profit off the back of other people's talent and other people's abilities, and treating players like walking billboards to do that.
Right, absolutely. And you were during the conference. A couple of us, I think Lazarus was in the chat as well. And he's a good guy.
Yeah,
I would say that we were talking a little bit about how it was a bit. It almost seemed a bit ridiculous to have these managers up here, but not the players. And ultimately, the players are the ones that are signing the contracts, and they're the ones that are being classified as independent contractors. They're having some rights taken away from them that are really not too fair. They shouldn't be taken away from them. If they had representation, they wouldn't be taken away from them. If there was a standardized player contract, they'd be in a better position, and we wouldn't see all this abuse. But it really just hasn't happened. So I thought it was a bit, I don't want to say hypocritical for the managers to be standing up there, but I did think that it was a bit, I did think that the conference didn't really do the best job of, getting the players to really come up there and represent themselves at that conference. Because if anything, they're the lifeblood of the industry. I mean, people come to watch the players. They don't really come to watch, the managers, and they weren't even there to begin with. So I thought that, they really could have done a better job with that.
I think this is another reason, though, why this is so. Just again, complete disclosure. I've had talks with some European players about how can we put a union in place? How can we get one working for you? And I've talked to CS:GO players and League of Legends players alike. Again, I've given my credentials. Obviously, I've been doing advocacy journalism for fucking so long now for player rights issues. I've dealt with a lot of stuff privately. When companies owe prize money, off completely anonymously, it'll be me who might read through or draft letters to get it back. Sometimes it's even a case of me saying, I will publish a story about this in a week. You've got a week to get it settled, or it's negative publicity time. Right. And this is one of the reasons why I get pissed off when people talk about me, you're just stirring up the drama. If I wrote about everything that I heard, I would have a story to write every day. I actually sometimes leverage the possibility of me writing a story just to do what's right for the players behind the scenes.
Right.
So on top of that, I worked as a trade union representative for 2 years. Basically the shop steward, the point of reference in a very large utility company. And I'm immensely proud of the work that we did there. It was literally another example of okay, so you'll know this, but when you're getting disciplined, it's like if they want to fire you for capability reasons, you'll get a lot of companies that say, hey, look, we've assessed you. It's been 6 months now. We've assessed you, and we don't think you're up to the job. And if people don't fight that, they just go, they get fired. Well, of course, it's completely. It's against European employment law. You have to demonstrate that you have ably given someone the tools to do their job before you can even fire them on capability grounds. So if you haven't put a training regime in place, or if somebody's doing the same thing consistently wrong, but you haven't documented an exercise that teaches them how to do it correctly, you can't dismiss them. They're going to get a rather healthy compensatory payout, and be that through in the UK, it might be ACAS, who are the resolution that kind of work as an intermediate, or privately through a specialist in employment law. But anyway, so I put all this forward to them, and I think there's a lot of people who perhaps have reservations, perhaps because I'm a journalist and therefore I can't be trusted, or whatever their perception might be. That's made it very hard for me to kind of win everybody over. And then what happened recently was Hiko got involved, and he's been telling everybody it absolutely can't be Richard Lewis. You can't trust this guy. He's a piece of shit or whatever, which I don't know why he's so upset with me. But I think obviously some of the stories I've written have maybe prejudiced him against me a little bit. But that's fine. The point is, it could never be me moving forward long term anyway. But it can't be, right? It has to be the players making the decisions, but they need a spokesperson or persons, because if one player acts as the mouthpiece for the union, then they're vulnerable. And to give you an example, one of the concerns that were raised in the meetings I've had about the player union was that we all know there's actually a team managers union in place now. In maybe not in the explicit legal sense of a union or association, which has a very specific requirement in the US especially. But what they do is they effectively represent their interests and collectively bargain together.
Right.
Right, and they do it that way. So what a player's worried about is, let's say you elect a very prominent player as the head of the players' union, and they're out there and they're fucking shit up for these team managers. Well, they're worried that the managers might get together, say, I'm going to drop him from the team, make sure none of you guys pick him up, and we'll just push him out to pasture, and that'll calm him down, because ultimately, at the end of the day, a player is still going to be reliant on an organization to get a salary. So there was that concern, and this is why I said it's got to be an ex-player, a non-current player, a commentator, a journalist, whatever it is. It's got to be someone that isn't beholden to the organization.
Well, I agree with that to some extent. First of all, I think that you're right that the players, they might be right in their concern that maybe managers will band together and tell them, don't pick up this player. But at the same time, managers do have their own independent interests. Outside of that group, they do want to win. So if you have, a star player that's doing really well, and then they need that player, then they might be, reluctant to drop him, or another team might be, they might want to pick him up. But I do agree also that, outside of that, ex-players can be advocates of the people that they still know in the industry. They'd be well served to do that. And I think that outside of that, maybe just some other outsider, a spokesperson, someone doesn't. I mean, you do it all the time. Someone needs to be the one that really comes out and preaches that there's some abuse that's taking place. I don't do much work in League of Legends, but I do a lot of work in other titles, more like Heroes. And it's awful there right now. Some of the stuff that you see, these players are getting paid nothing, and it's just that they're being what they're doing. They're devoting hours and hours a day, and they're forgoing a life where they can go to school, and they're dropping out, and they're really dedicating their entire livelihood to this profession, but at the same time they're not seeing any return on it. And that might just be a product of there not being any money there, but I think ultimately that needs to change. And wherever it starts, there needs to be some sort of person that's really going to come out and just speak on behalf of these players and tell them that they're worth more than they think that they are, and that they could get a better deal, and that eventually this just needs to happen.
So, I mean, what I spent my time doing, because I know people might find this hard to believe, but when I put on a suit and I try and make myself look as dapper as physically possible at this current moment in time, and I go into a room and I put, Americans are sucker for the British accent anyway. I actually spent my time meeting with a few venture capitalists, and I was saying to them, if you wanted to make a profound impact on the shape of esports, but you would absolutely get no physical return on it. Right. What we would need to do is we would need to get basically a one-time cash injection with no equity to found a union, and their name would be on the press release, and then that would be it. They would have no influence, no control. That money would be put into an account, and it would be used for the sole purposes of pursuing whatever the subscribers to this association required. And that's what I think this is the first step for me, because look, to be a union, you've got to be recognized by the is it the American Board of Labor or something out here? I think it's a very specific thing that it has to have. So initially, what it has to be, just to get past all that legality, and before we can even get to that stage, it needs to be a one-stop shop for all the services that you might need as a player. So, for example, let's say a player or whoever it can be, it's not just limited to players. They sign up to this union and they say, hey, look, I've got these issues. And, like a paralegal would, you do the interview, you make notes, and you're like, okay, well, this issue requires an accountant. So then you would go and facilitate and take the money and pay for that individual to have an accountant. Let's say they're scared of getting caught by the IRS because, like a lot of players, they've not declared taxes for a long period of time. So, you facilitate pointing them in the right direction. Let's say it's a mental health issue, and they don't feel they can talk about it with anyone on the team or anyone within the organization. They can have an anonymous conversation, and you can best direct them to the right place. And it's the same for legal work and legal fees. And this is initially the form it would have to take. And equally as well, we would have regular meetings about any issues that arose. And let's say, for example, a tournament organizer had terrible, appalling conditions and they wanted to do a boycott. Instead of one team having to go on social media and say, we're boycotting this and hope the community don't shit on them and other teams follow suit, it would be the Esports Players Association or the Esports Professionals Association put out a group statement saying all of our members refuse to support this tournament while these conditions are in place, and all the paid up members would, but de facto accept that boycott. This is like strike action that you would see. So this is what I want to put in place.
Absolutely, and I think that one of the problems basically is just I think it's it's the youth of these players. They're so young, and they don't really understand all the complexities. They don't really understand the necessity to just band together, speaking a voice that, as one. Like you said, it wouldn't be good for one team or one player, to come out and just, denounce a certain tournament. It would be better if they all could do it collectively. And unfortunately, they haven't really done that yet. And otherwise, if they had, we wouldn't be talking about this right now. But I do think that with what you were talking about with the venture capitalists, you're talking about basically a venture capitalist coming in and, I guess, funding this without receiving any equity or anything like that. It would almost have to be altruistic, would it not? I feel like that's I'm not too sure if they see it like that, because most venture capitalists, they see it with the dollar signs. And I've done some esports consulting for venture capitalists actually, and they've been asking my opinion about a good space to get involved in, and I try to direct them the best way I can. But they're always looking to get, equity, and more often than not ownership. And it's just and see some sort of return on what they're doing, because that's ultimately the end goal, to make more money. So I do think it's an issue.
Well, I mean, the key word in venture capitalist is venture. And that is that they see it as an ongoing, thing, that there has to be a return. Now, interestingly enough, while I was at this thing, I mean, because obviously I was introduced as working for the Daily Dot, but I've subsequently resigned. I've had my last day with the Daily Dot now, which doesn't mean I wouldn't. I might not write for them again in future. I'm effectively freelance at the moment, but the amount of job offers I got were startling. I mean, literally, I probably has got about a dozen job offers, like, come work for us, come and we'll pay you, X amount of, ridiculous amount of money to be a consultant. We'll and obviously I've turned all of this down. I'm not financially driven whatsoever. But
maybe get that ESPN job.
We'll see about that. I mean, I thought it was interesting that I actually got asked the question about whether I thought ESPN were independent during my speech on journalism, and I said resoundingly no. So whether that'll come back to bite me on the arse, I don't know. But anyway, so the point is, every time I was getting offered a job, what I was saying was, why don't, instead of paying me $50,000 to act as a consultant and basically point me in the right direction as esports, why don't you give me $250,000 and I will build the first players union, and the only thing you will get for it is a pat on the back, but you will have changed the fucking face of esports forever. Everybody will always know it was you that did it. And then if you do decide to get into another esports venture down the road, you will always be the people that put the seed capital in place for the first ever players union, and you will have credibility. So that's kind of the angle I've been going down to sell it to these people. Now, it's took a lot of drinks, it's took a lot of cocktails, and a lot of dinners. I mean, my heartburn is fucking killing me right now. But I think I've actually maybe got some people that could possibly come round to the idea of basically putting money into something and then totally walking away from it to help develop the space, because a players union is good for business. It's good for everybody. It means we get a better return of investment for everybody. So it's entirely possible. And yeah, look, so people are saying that's a horrible sales pitch. You're absolutely right, but it's the only sales pitch that can work and guarantee impartiality. I can't have like, hey, Google, YouTube want to sponsor a fucking players association? You think, well, why not? And then, of course, do YouTube players get the service for free while everyone has to subscribe? Do the YouTube people who stream on YouTube, do they get better lawyers than everyone else? There would always be these questions of bias. It has to be, like I say, a one-time cash injection with no fucking equity. So yeah, I've spent the time out here in San Francisco basically trying to rustle up some cash for a fucking players union.
Aside from that, obviously, I think that's right. I mean, it would have to be altruistic, and I do think that as long as they were impartial and they weren't beholden to these capitalists, I think that it could work. I think that attorneys providing really cheap or almost free help to these people, that is something that could work as well. I mean, I personally have been reaching out while I was still in law school. I was trying to contact the New York City Bar Association. I went to Cardozo. I was trying to contact the NYCBA and talk with the some committees just to go and maybe provide free help to these individuals, because I do think that there could be a push. It doesn't necessarily need to be a fully structured union at first. There needs to be something even before that where these individuals know they could turn somewhere to get some help.
Exactly, and that's pretty much what came up over the lunch. I every lunch I had, it was the same thing. It was like, oh, it's incredibly expensive to put lawyers on retainer, and you would need it to be non-regional specific, so you need European lawyers, people with expertise in Germany, and then Sweden and everywhere else. And it's like, it's such a massive undertaking. The legal costs alone would be astronomical. And I'm like, well, no, because to begin with, you wouldn't have them on retainer. You would need to use the model that a trade union in the UK uses, which is you subscribe, that money goes into a pot. When an incident comes up for a union member, they have an interview or a union representative meet them, and then we decide accordingly what the best course of action is. And I only had a very cursory grasp of employment law, but you get trained fundamentally in the basics. So you know when something's inappropriate, or you know when actually, okay, this looks suspicious. I need to consult a lawyer, and they can give me a bit more clarity on this particular topic. So, I feel that's how it would start. I don't think you need dedicated staff. I think you just need to have the slush fund there, and eventually it might even become a self-sustaining model. I don't know what the annual subscription fee would be, what would be appropriate, what would represent value for money and be affordable, so it didn't exclude people from potentially subscribing to it. But, let's just say ballpark $25 a year to have access to the an unlimited amount of services as required by the individual on a long enough time scale. Maybe this is something that can be sustainable, but maybe not. But if we had a huge cash injection at the start, that was literally, the only costs would be whatever you needed in terms of services, and of course, whoever was organizing it, let's say me, I would require obviously a modest salary, which I know it sounds like that cunt who tried to do Team Reddit, but you would. So the other thing that would need to be in place as well at the point. This is something else I said. All paid up union members could at any time issue, say 3 months in, issue a vote of no confidence in their elected representative, and they could push for new elections if they wanted to.
Right.
So again, what I would want, again, let's just say it was me. It doesn't have to be me, but let's say it was. I would want the mechanics in there, so if at any point I became a tyrannical despot, I could be removed. And that would be very important to the infrastructure as well. So you would draw a living salary from it, and you would be able to be elected or voted out should there be enough people who wanted to put a vote of no confidence in. So at any point, at any point you could be removed. I mean, I sat down, I did like a draft, like a sort of manifesto as to what would be required. And they're sort of the things that I came up with.
I mean, I think that those are pretty good ideas. I mean, it's a step in the right direction no matter what, because right now we have nothing. So, very little. I mean, there are some players that are represented, but I do think that is certainly a step in the right direction. And I do think, I mean, it would be fantastic. You said that you've had success with talking to these individuals, or you're beginning to have success, or...
I'm winning people over. I mean, this is the thing. It's like... You got to understand. I mean, that doesn't mean I'll follow up on it, but as I said, there's a lot of people here with more money than sense. There's a lot of people here. That's true. I mean,
absolutely.
You can come to these things and sell magic beans if you want to be that guy. And I'm not that guy, but I'm sure there's a lot of people here who've got ideas that are completely hokum, and they're going to get cut a big fat check. What I'm doing is I'm trying to win people around to the idea of, because everybody says this is again recurring phrase. Let's all grow the pie together rather than people being greedy and trying to take a slice. And the people who say that, they're the people you've got to be the most suspicious about. Because they're often the ones that try and create monopolies by any other name. Like even right now, there's talk about big groups that own companies in esports looking to acquire other companies to consolidate their position. And these are the people that are publicly saying, hey, everyone, let's grow esports for everybody. And what they mean is let's grow esports for us. Right. So we're going to keep buying companies until we control so much of it. We're the go-to company. And that's what everybody wants. So... what I'm trying to do with these guys is, because like I said, these are venture capitalists. These are people who they go just phenomenal amounts of money. Like I say, people are selling their companies for huge amounts, and I'm asking for a very small chunk of change to do something that I think 5 years from now would have a profound benefit for everybody in the business, would mean more money was flowing into it, would mean we would look more professional, would create a much more stable environment, and that would be good. That would have a long-term benefit should they want to invest in something else or buy another company. So, I don't know. I mean, look, I think everyone's really polite at these functions as well. So they're probably going to say, hey, that sounds like a great idea. We could totally make this a reality. Let's do it. And, they all chink our glasses and they all have cigars and we all do that, right? And then we all fuck off back and play and we think, what the fuck was that meeting about? That's never going to happen. Like
$250,000 to these people is basically nothing anyway. So to be completely honest with you, like
yeah, and that's the ballpark figure I'm operating with. I think that's realistically what we need to fucking get this thing off the ground, to get a working website in there, to be able to consult with anyone legally if we need it, to bring in agents to do contract negotiations should that be required. just to have that sort of presence right from the start. But I could be wrong. Like I definitely will accept that I could be wrong about this. It could be a pipe dream. It might not happen.
Well, there's so many other complexities. I mean, with regards to just the multiple titles that you would have to negotiate with the different league structures and each thing. I mean, would you have it for one? Would you have it for esports, or would you have it for League of Legends? And what do you think?
Well, here's the thing: it has to. Right, so you definitely can't discriminate against people based on game. I think that goes without saying. You don't want to turn anyone away really from anything. And here's the thing: you don't need to understand one game specifically. I think all of the issues are the fucking same across every game. So I think the idea that it has to be a league players association, a CS:GO player, I think that's ridiculous. I think everybody faces the same problems. It's you get gypped on contracts, you get fucked over on expenses. You have to go to tournaments where things aren't as they seem. You've got managers that fucking steal money and disappear into the night, and never to be seen again. These are the issues that affect everybody in esports across the board, and we need something that's robust enough to be able to cater to everybody. Just because, say, for example, again, using me as the example, doesn't have to be me, it could be anybody. But, if it was me and I was going out there and it's like, look, I don't really follow the Dota 2 scene, but I can sit down and have a conversation with somebody, and if somebody says, well, I've not been paid in 7 months, it doesn't fucking matter what game you play, you're getting fucking wrecked, and that needs to be resolved and addressed, and the legal recourse for that is the same, whether it's StarCraft, Dota, CS, anything else. It's incredible. Honestly, I don't think you would even believe it for a second. It's incredible the amount of players, and I was seeing that owed money from years ago. In fact,
I believe it.
Maybe if you were to talk to a professional, player, I'm just going to turn my camera off a minute. Sorry, I know it's been lagging in and out.
Love it.
If you were to talk to any professional, they'll all tell you the same thing. I am owed. I mean, sometimes tens of thousands, and this will go back for years and years and years. And you're like, well, why aren't you pursuing this? And they're like, well, managers have told me not to. Managers say they'll deal with it. I don't want to cause a fuss. They still run tournaments now, and I don't want to get banned from competing at their tournaments. I don't know how to pursue it. I mean, these are the common responses. Very rarely does anyone say, I have been in the act of pursuing it. There's an ongoing piece of litigation or whatever. And that never gets said. It's always...
I've never heard anyone say that.
Exactly. Yeah. Here's a political reason as to why I'm not pursuing my fundamental fucking rights to get prize money, salary, expenses, whatever it is. And it's got to change. And the only way you're going to change, for me, is by insulating that player, putting somebody in place that can deal with it on a legal basis and privately. This is why I've been trying to sell this idea to managers. It's better for managers because instead of a player waking up one day and snapping and going, right, I've got real life shit to do now and I'm owed $60,000, I'm going on Twitter. So instead of that happening, what they do is a solicitor, a lawyer, or whatever comes to you privately and goes, right, my client is owed this money. We're going to sue you. You've got by this date to put something in court that my client finds acceptable. That's a damn sight better than a Twitter shitstorm, frankly. And all the managers should welcome that. That's a damn sight better than that player leveraging all of his fans, which is the only recourse they've actually got at the moment, to write to a fucking sponsor or to threaten to boycott a particular product or tournament until they get paid. Nobody wants that. It's not a good look for the industry. These things need to be dealt with privately and through legal channels, in my opinion. And that's why I think the team managers would and should welcome a union that looks to make this happen.
I do think that obviously that's a problem, but getting back to what Lazarus was saying before, is I think you guys are having a bit of a discussion about it with regards to the multiple parties in the actual process. I mean, it's not like the NFL, the NHL, the NBA, where you only have the teams and the players. You're also it's important to stress that you do have the game developers. I would say though that there are certain issues that might not be able to be addressed, strictly by talking between the team and the players. You're talking about appeals processes, discipline, stuff like that. That's going to be, I would imagine that'd be league specific. So, and that's something that the players do have interests in, and I would think that that's something that they would want to negotiate for as well. So I do think that it's a bit different than anything commonly seen. I think it'd probably have to take a structure of something where you're almost having negotiation between 3 or 4 parties.
So an important question for me, and Bryce won't mind me saying this. I had a great time hanging out with Bryce. He's obviously the original esports attorney,
Bryce is a good guy.
and he is a good guy. And it was, of course, hugely disappointing for me when he decided to go and work with Unicorn. I felt he could have done more good not doing that. But obviously, we've talked about that. That's my opinion. I'm never going to lie about my opinion because I respect him too much, and I still have a lot of respect for him. I still love the guy, and I think.
Can I ask you one other question about him?
Of course, yeah.
One other question. I mean, this is something that I've been asked from time to time, and when we're talking about the teams, and I spoke with Bryce actually before I went into, I was talking with Bryce. I had about an hour-long phone conversation one day back in February before I was deciding I wanted to go into esports law, and we had a really nice conversation. He's a great guy, but one of the things I question is if he's the one that's representing the teams, as he said at the beginning of that conference, and the teams are the ones that are drafting these unfair contracts, why is, what are we talking about with the players' unions too? I mean, is he also advocating for players' unions at the same time? It seems a little bit...
Absolutely. He is advocating for it, and I know he still represents players, and of course he's representing a lot of players pro bono, and this is why I feel like he's such a big loss. In Europe, you've got Anna Baumann. She's doing a lot of pro bono work for players. Obviously, I don't think I can talk specifically about any cases, and certainly she doesn't. She takes it incredibly seriously, the player confidentiality thing. So she's, and rightly so, as all lawyers should. She's looking to do great things in the scene. But this is what I'm saying. We still don't have lawyers that will do good for the players.
There's no one specifically dedicated to doing good for the players. This is when I speak with other lawyers too, they're always representing the teams as well, and that's a product of finances too. The lawyers need to be able to support themselves. They're working, and the teams are the ones, or more than the players at least. The teams have the money. The money goes to them before it goes to the players. So the teams are the ones that are going to be able to pay them, so that the lawyers then go flock to the teams. They're not really strictly representing the players, or only the players, I should say.
So the question I was going to ask you is, would you be willing to offer your services pro bono to anybody?
I've already done it. I've tried to do it. I mean, there's a couple that I've spoken with, but no one big. And yes, absolutely, the answer is yes. When I was a couple years ago when I was in law school, I worked pro bono for the the Unemployment Advocate Center in New York City, and I basically just advocated for people in unemployment cases. So I do have. I did do a lot of pro bono work. It's something that I would be willing to do, absolutely. It's something I think that needs to happen if this is going to ever get off the ground. I do think that there needs to be someone that's willing to just come in and be a little bit altruistic here and do it out of his own time and just help initially. And then, eventually I'm sure that'll pay its own dividends. You get your name out in the industry, more popular figure. But I do think that it's necessary right now, yeah.
So how would someone contact you if they wanted to utilize your services? Let's say I know I have a lot of pro players that like to watch these VODs. How would they get in touch with you privately? What would be the best way for them to do it?
Well, obviously you could follow me on Twitter, Harris Peskin, HarrisPeskin. You could send me a DM on Twitter, or you could just, I don't know if I want to give my email out right now over this. But yeah, well, I'd say that's the best way.
Yeah. Okay. Twitter it is. Of course, keep in mind that if we see any pros like has followed, that could be something to be mindful of. So, but yeah, I think it's we do need more people, sort of like you say, willing to offer up their time and resources free of charge. And without that, we are going nowhere. So, but look. Yeah, go on.
I'm sorry. One last thing, because I'm seeing what Lazarus is typing in chat right now. One last thing I would say to Lazarus, I'm not exactly sure where he's based, but one of the best things he could particularly do, obviously he's not a lawyer, he doesn't have a license yet, he can't practice by himself, and he can't offer his services. It's a problem. I would say you could, basically contact your local bar association and see, maybe try to join a committee or something. Like, that's basically what I tried to do, the entertainment committee in New York City, and kind of explain to them the issue. They need to provide pro bono service anyway. It's an ethical requirement. So maybe you could basically kind of convince them that this is an area that needs help, and that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I hope. I hope that goes. I hope that's what happens, because like I say, the The players aren't making enough money. Like, so the reason you don't have individual agent representation in esports is because if you represent a Premier League footballer who's getting £80,000 a week and you take a 10% cut of that, that's worth your time negotiating to 80,000. If you represent an esports player and they are the best paid player in the world and they're getting paid like 5,000. A month, and you get a 10% cut of that, so it's like 500. That is not worth your fucking time and expertise, and that's why you don't have these individual representatives, for players. But I think that's going to change as well. I've got a meeting with an agent, a very prominent sports agent, after DreamHack London. I'm going to try and get him to set something up, a player agency, and I think. And I'm giving him some advice and guidance and telling him about some people he might want to speak to players-wise. I think once we get to that level, I think good things are going to happen. It'll snowball from there. But it's like you say, some people have got to take the punt and be willing to maybe take a hit. And that's why it's only people with other businesses. Like, it could only be an agent who has got clients that make him money, that could take the time to make no money on esports for the first year, 2 years while he was representing people.
For me personally, this is kind of the path I chose for this reason. I work at a law firm in Long Island, New York City. It's called Meltzer, Lippy, Goldstein, Brightstone. We do all sorts of things: corporate law, IP law, labor law. It's vast, and I would say that they're paying me a salary so that and they also are. I kind of went into their firm. I got my foot in the door a little bit, and I kind of pitched to them this idea of esports player representation. And I explained to them that it might take a long time, and I wouldn't be able to support myself really, without them helping me, I guess with a marketing budget, whatever budget they want to give me. And in addition to that, providing a salary so that I can go and, do other areas of law while providing this representation so that eventually this can grow into something bigger. And they kind of saw that as an opportunity where, okay, we understand this person, wants to provide pro bono representation to these players at first, and we think it'll be profitable in the end. But right now, it's obviously not. Let's take the first step in the right direction.
So I hope it happens, and I hope you're part of it. It was great to talk to you. I guess we'll kind of wrap up the show there, and I'll be keeping people apprised of anything else that happens in regards to unions. I'm actually going out for another one of these incredible lunches in a couple of hours or so.
Watch that heartburn.
It's gonna fucking kill me. You have no idea. Like, I got a bottle of Pepto over there. It's fucking wrecking me. Like, well, what do you want? You want some more clam chowder? It's like, stop this. So I'm doing a fucking detox when I get back. Actually, I'm gonna do one of them juice cleanses or whatever, because this fucking all this late night boozing and schmoozing is fucking killing me. So, but I will certainly put some tweets out about it. Should we be able to get the ball rolling and be able to find someone that's willing to at least fund this? So I'll keep you posted and everyone else. And of course, thanks for calling in. Hey, no worries. Do call in again if anything's ever on your mind. You will be added to the whitelist of callers. We like people with legal expertise. So look after yourself, and no doubt I will speak to you in the future.
All right, take care. Bye bye.
Awesome. Peace out, brother. Right, there we go. I'm gonna try and put my cam back on now, Sam. I see you've had a good time stacking people there. I do like the Anders. That's pretty good. Have you noticed how from like those two pictures there, like Chanman and Cody Connors look like the fucking same dude?
Yeah, but I mean, you're racist as fuck.
Why? They just look.
Doesn't Cody Connors like got an Asian ethnicity background?
I don't know.
You've had a robot, mate. Yeah.
Oh, I'm a robot and the fuck out. I guess I'll just have to accept being called a racist then, without being able to defend myself. So, yeah. But anyway, so I mean, do you think a players union is possible, Sam? Do you think we'll ever see one in our lifetime?
Is it possible? Yes, I think so. I think even though there's no return, I think the return of having a good name in esports is actually worth it, because 250k to a venture capitalist is like nothing really.
Yeah.
So I think it's worth it. It depends what they're gonna do though, because the thing I'm worried about is they're gonna be like, yeah, I give you 250k, and then they start a new business. You're like, oh look, these guys are great, they help this players union. They're just like, we're bitcoining, we're just stealing everything, like something like that's gonna happen, isn't it?
Yeah. So look, just before we wrap up the show, I just wanted to bring your attention to just a few things that have been going on kind of outside of esports. Have you been following this fucking Sarah Nyberg thing?
Nope.
Yeah, you haven't at all?
Nah.
You don't keep up with these things, do you?
Nah.
All right, well...
I know what it is, but it's the, from Gamergate, right? That claimed to be,
well, yeah,
basically.
Yeah, basically, this was somebody called Sarah Butts, who was a massive critic of the sort of Gamergate movement, was given a platform to write on a few, reasonably well-respected publications. She basically was attacking Gamergate for being racist. Apparently, if you were a Gamergate supporter, you were instantly a neo-Nazi. I mean, that seems par for the course from what I've read anyway. On top of that, it made you a paedophile. You supported paedophilia. Because occasionally child pornography was uploaded to sites like 4chan, 8chan in particular, which of course was the spin-off from 4chan after they started deleting Gamergate stuff. And then it just so transpires that in 2005 there were these chat logs which have all been verified as her, which not only was she racist in them, demonstrably so in several cases, but admitted to having paedophilic desires, and in particular on her 8-year-old cousin. And these have all come out, and of course, what do you think the reaction is to this? Well, the reaction has been, obviously, everyone else is like, everyone who's normal and sane is aghast by this, but all the people who were adopting an anti-Gamergate stance are now changing their name to Butts in it, in a show of support, and they're saying this is a hatchet and smear job and that we should support this individual. It's unbelievable.
I mean, isn't a hatchet and smear job only work if it's not true?
Yeah, well, and this is the thing. The parents were contacted and they said, while we're not going to officially comment on this, they verified all of the facts that were in the story, and they said that they had actually kept the child away from this individual for those reasons. Now, I'll give you this to link, so you can fucking put this up on the screen. But this is the sort of shit that was out within fucking seconds. There you go. I've sent it in the group. I'll send it on the individual one as well. This is the shit that was up in seconds. Of the revelations being out public. 5 reasons why I stand with Sarah Nyberg, who best case scenario is at least a child sex fantasist. I mean, that's the best case scenario, that none of this is real and the individual is just advocating for, I believe, what they like to call intergenerational sex, which me and you just call noncing. Right? So I was just amazed. I'm amazed at these people. I don't even get why. I just can't. I can't understand how anybody could, in all fucking good conscience, write an essay defending somebody. They haven't even denied that these chat logs are theirs. So it just blows my mind, Sam. Blows my mind. This internet shit that's going on right now, it's really weird. I can't think of any other ideology where people would feel compelled to support somebody that is, talking about and sharing pictures of this girl as well, but actually talking about enacting an act of, child molestation, and just because Gamergate's bad or whatever, we now have to support that. There's actual games developers tweeting that they support this individual. Like, literally, people who make the fucking games in this industry.
I don't know. Court as well. Allegedly, Sarah Nyberg confessed to paedophilia and/or dog fuckery.
Yeah, dog fuckery. Well, that was the initial thing as well. I mean, again, there was a quite famous log where she was talking about enacting sex with animals as well, which apparently that's all right, I guess. But this, there's prominent figures in the industry advocating for this individual. I just don't understand it, dude. What, like, am I crazy, or Or is this like a bad person? Is this somebody that is deeply disturbed? Again, best case scenario is deeply disturbed and needs real fucking help, but certainly needs to be kept away from children. You know, and people are saying this is a smear job, and they stand with her and they support her. I just, this is fucking insane to me. But this is the state. This is the state of the modern internet. That, you know, there's this group who are of insane people that hide under, you know, behind the guise of being on the progressive left, and they are interested in ultimately eroding, you know, any freedom of speech. But it's all projection. All the stuff they use to slander and smear people who oppose. Their need for, you know, censoring words they don't like and protecting their little feelings. All the stuff they accuse you of being, that's what they're actually doing. It's fucking frightening, dude. Like this Sarah Nyberg thing. I remember Sarah Butts when the Gamergate thing came out, and I remember thinking, God, this person's fucked. You know, it's like, you know, fucking Brianna Wu, like just fucking crazy people that say crazy things. But I had no idea that, you know, anything like this would come out. And I thought this might be the tipping point. This might be the moment where you realize that some of these people are fucked in the head. Like just crazy people. And this whole Gamergate thing, it's like literally if you're still fixating on Gamergate 1 fucking year later and still using that tag and talking about harassment and whatever else, like, you know, this would be the point that proves just what a farce that is. But actually, people are now coming out and being, yeah, well, you know, I mean, Ben Kuchera of fucking Polygon is supporting this individual. These aren't small names in the gaming industry. It's honestly, this has been happening while I've been in San Francisco. It's like some fucking demented fever dream. As I said, time I woke up, I said, "Is this a sick joke?" So,
dog fuckery. Yeah. That's normal. Yeah. We'll let that slide.
So anyway, if you haven't already followed that, guys, I recommend you go out and you do, and you fucking make it known. You know, you fucking make it known what you think about this stuff, because this is really frightening. This is like actually frightening that people are now going to come out and advocate for this kind of thing just because, you know, it's okay to be a pedophile as long as you align with my social justice warrior values, is effectively what people are saying. Literally nothing is sacred anymore. This cult is, you know, getting out of hand. And just one last picture to bring up before we leave, Sam. For those that watched the start of the show, and they remembered that, you know, we contacted some guy who wanted to, you know, smoke an entire pack at a time. We just had another message from him, and he sent us this and said, you know, this is the kind of thing we can get videos of if we want. So I'll wait until that's brought up.
This show is a fucking joke.
You love being a part of this show.
There you go.
There we are. Good. So that's on, and you can see now that this is the kind of entertainment that we can be bringing you every week, 2 times a week. And just on that note, just before we go, I want to say that obviously it's been difficult while I've been doing all this traveling to get the 2 shows a week out, but I'm gonna change. You know, we're going to change that once they get back. That's not going to be a problem moving forward. We are going to hit all the Patreon goals. We are going to have an episode of First Blood this month. Nintendo's in, Broken Shard's in. We're going to do a show where it's just the 3 of us, no guests, just to catch up, just like we did the original shows, and then we'll move forward and bring guests in. So all of that's going to happen. Don't worry about it. You will know more about it. Just stay glued to the Twitter. Make a subscribe remote.
How is it going to work that if, like, no one we bring First Blood back, what if we just say it's Broken Chad's show and you're the co-host? Does that go on the Reddit then?
Technically, but I mean, I don't think they would allow it. I mean, keep in mind, technically, my ban was meant to be reviewed on the 2nd of this month. Yeah. And if nobody brings it up, then, you know, and I can't, because I can't post on Reddit. If nobody brings it up, then I can't even have the discussion with the mods. They physically won't talk to me. So it's like, imagine being in a situation where it's like, yeah, just we will review your ban, and you're like, oh hey, what's happening with my ban? I can't ask that question.
Don't talk to me, please. This is
yeah,
abuse.
and I can't talk about it publicly either because I've been told if I do that, then that is grounds to extend the ban.
You've been rioted, mate. Sounds like some good old riot rulings.
Well, I mean, I think we all know at this point there obviously is no connection between the two. So, you know, and if I was to suggest otherwise, again, that would be grounds to extend the ban. So, I mean, at this point, it does strike me as fucking patently absurd. You know, that I've had to leave a job. You know, I've had to do all this other stuff. But you know, I guess we'll wait and see. You know, I mean, people seem to think it's totally reasonable that I'm not allowed to ask when is my content going to be unbanned. You know, and they keep talking about this review that you know it was meant to happen last month. And it was in fact actually it was meant to happen, I think, end of August. No, sorry,
wasn't always before that, end of June.
End of July. Yeah, end of July. Sorry, end of July. And what happened was they pointed to a video on the 2nd of June where I said something. All I said was that I don't think the witch hunting. He said witchcraft, and I've been hanging out with Blondie too much. The witch hunting rules. I didn't say the witch hunting rules were being applied consistently. And because I said that meant that was my last transgression, and so I couldn't be unbanned until 3 months after that, which is why it was September the 2nd. So, and there was a thread about this in the League of Meta issue forum, whatever the fuck that is, and they said, you know, they were gonna review everything, but they haven't.
I mean, that's just creepy as fuck. The fact they're going through every VOD. He must have said something. You know,
but
now you get banned again. This is round 2.
Yeah, this is obviously grounds to extend the ban again. But this is the point. So I said to them that they objected to me saying in another video that they were reviewing, and on Twitter I said they're reviewing everything I say. They're reviewing every video I put out. They're reviewing everything I write. And then they're looking for any grounds to extend the ban. And they objected to that. They said that was not true. And they only realized I'd said that by reviewing my Twitter, reviewing my content, you know. So you can see the ridiculous quandary that I'm in. You can see the situation in the sense that, you know, they're silencing me so I can't point out the hypocrisy directly. And then they're reviewing everything I say and using anything I say as grounds to extend the content ban. And yet they're saying publicly to people, and this seems to have been lapped up by the community, that actually their demands, in inverted commas, are reasonable. And that is that I just don't... they've said publicly, all I have to do is not talk about them or the subreddit in a derogatory or non-factual way. But they determine what is factual and what isn't. So when I say things like the witch hunting rules aren't applied consistently, which I said on June the 2nd, they extend the ban and they consider that a transgression. I would argue there's evidence for that. But, you know, this is the ridiculous situation we find ourselves in. So, you know, I don't know why at this point they wouldn't want to allow my content on the subreddit unless there was some incentive for them to continue this ban. I think everything's been nice and calm. I haven't tweeted about them. I've let them largely just go about their business. You know, there's been a few flashpoints for the community, and I still don't think the subreddit is modded ideally by any stretch of the imagination. But you know, as for getting unbanned, you know, unless people bring it up, I can't. So I don't know. I don't know what needs to happen. And keep in mind, there was a bunch of people who come to me privately, you know, prominent figures in the industry, and they came to me and they said, well, we were going to make a video, or we were going to tweet something, or we were going to make a Reddit thread, but we were scared of getting banned as well. So sorry about that. And equally as well, you know, take, for example, this players union thing. People have raised the point from the League of Legends community. If you were the head of the players union and you needed to make an announcement for the players union, couldn't the League of Legends mods say that the announcement can't go on the subreddit because it's you making it, and therefore it counts as content. So it's even potentially now putting the kibosh on doing something, overarchingly good. So, yeah, it's a fucking crazy situation, mate. I mean, but this is just where we find ourselves.
That's why you need to come to Worlds, mate. I'm sure there'll be some Reddit mods at Worlds. We'll ask him in real life and we'll film it. Put on trash.
Well, it's funny you should mention that. I've actually I've been given a slot. These tickets that were allocated for like sponsors and prominent people of importance and stuff. Apparently, I am listed for a team. I won't say which team.
Someone's giving you a ticket, like.
Yeah, but apparently they put me down on the list.
Can't wait to guess. Richard Lewis is banned from the venue.
Well, I mean, there's a good chance that might happen. I mean, this happens on the regular, actually, at these events anyway. For Riot, there was a. I mean, did you hear about what happened with Jacob Wolf?
Yeah, but you know.
I mean, maybe it's not a great example, but he was there. He got invited to a sort of an after event party and was in the sort of VIP area, and he spoke to somebody, and they obviously didn't like him from some stories he wrote online, so they basically said we want him removed from the VIP area, and he got removed, which seems an incredibly childish way of dealing with things. But I know, for example, you look at Chris Badawi's ban. Even at Worlds, I don't think he's going to be allowed backstage or anything. Even though he's allowed to attend. So it does feel a lot of time that you're sort of dealing with tree houses and stuff. So I have no idea what will happen when I go to Worlds.
But I wanted to. We'll do something.
Yeah. Well, I've said what I want to do is what I want to film is me with like a fake mustache.
Yes, Steve
and a
Brule
top
in
hat.
it, mate.
Yeah, a fake mustache and a top hat, and be like, "Oh, hello, I am Ricardo Luis." We'll see if I can get in.
Yeah, well, I'm going to Brussels and London, so we'll film it, mate. We'll do something.
All right, cool. So yeah, we'll do another documentary to get us in the world. But yeah, so just on the point of will First Blood be on Reddit? Probably not. I don't think I'm ever going to get unbanned from the League of Legends subreddit. I don't think they ever really have any intent of doing that. And to be honest, it doesn't really serve any agenda to do it, and at this point, it's the whole point of setting up the Patreon was we could bring back First Blood because we wouldn't need to generate any ad revenue to make it worth doing. We've got it independently funded, so if it doesn't go on Reddit, it's not even the end of the world. Like, I just don't, I don't care. So, but if people want the fuck, people want to force the issue about the content ban, they need to do it. I can't. I literally can't. Even this segment of the show, we'd be smart to cut this out of the VOD because it'll get reviewed and it'll be deemed to be inflammatory or whatever. So, and again, I mean, every time I message them now, they won't talk to me. I just get banned or they ignore me on Skype. So it's like, I don't really understand how to, how to even start the dialogue at this juncture. But it's been over 4 months of the content ban being in place. And I think it's been to the detriment of the League of Legends community. People missed out on the MYM story. There's other stories that I'm working on right now that are going to be hugely beneficial for the League of Legends community to read, and I'm not going to be able to get them out to the community that exists because look, we all know Riot's own website isn't the community hub. We all know it's the subreddit. We all know there isn't one website that's a big community hub. We all know it's that subreddit. So it's all about that subreddit. If you want to read content or watch content, it has to get on that subreddit. That's just the reality of it. Which is why, people who make a living from making League of Legends content, which doesn't apply to me, they'll do almost anything to get on that fucking subreddit. So it's like I had a sports psychologist tell me they didn't even know about the MYM stuff because they missed the fucking story. I had people tell me they didn't know about the Amprag thing because they didn't get to read the story. I had people who said we didn't realize that Riot had fucked up the ticket allocation at Worlds because it didn't get on the subreddit. Now, these are all, you can argue maybe they don't serve a greater good for the community. I think they do, but you can maybe make the argument that they don't. But ultimately, the content ban at this point, again, I think you can say that it's actually, it's actually harming the community that they don't have access to this information. I genuinely believe that, and now that I don't have a job, and I've got a Patreon in place, so it's not about YouTube revenue. It's now got fuck all to do with revenue generation. I think still saying that proves that I'm not lying. I'm not bullshitting. So, but anyway, I guess we'll just wait and see. And I won't even get into it was never really explained why people who ran Riot free lol. It was never really explained to me why guys like Harvey got banned and then had messages sent to them by admins saying we don't want you to associate with Richard Lewis. I mean, this was still never explained or cleared up.
I mean, I got banned as well for no
reason. So I don't understand. And that was obviously from the admins. That isn't even to throw anything at the League of Legends mods. That's the admins. And of course, there's a different... An admin is someone who works for Reddit directly. So I have no idea why that happened either. And, I've never had a direct explanation from anyone on Reddit as to why I was banned. We only guess at this point. I hear vote brigading. I hear harassment. I hear doxing threats. I read the same wall of bullshit on Reddit whenever my name gets brought up about how I fucking drove someone to suicide. Didn't happen. How I put public information of the moderators out. Didn't happen. Even the Reddit mods have come out now and said these things didn't happen. But of course, I couldn't defend myself for so long that it's now become a fact, and that's what I knew. This is the point. Actually, I got banned for being on Reddit, and basically everyone who said anything that was stupid or anyone who said anything that was untrue, I really aggressively went after them and said, "You're talking out your ass," and that was why everyone thought I was a cunt and everybody thought I was unprofessional. And I just finished reading a book by John Ronson called "You Have Been Publicly Shamed," and there's a whole chapter on it talking about actually when a mob comes after you, if you do defend yourself viciously, tooth and nail, it almost always works out better for you than if you just let the mob shit all over your good name. And he uses an example of somebody that did this, how they just refused to be ashamed and it worked out for them. So it actually, again, there's now this sort of anecdotal evidence. A journalist has sort of chronicled the phenomenon of mob mentality and public shaming, and they said pretty much my standpoint, which is if you want to fucking maintain your reputation, you do defend yourself. This whole ignore them and it'll go away thing has now been proven to have no efficacy whatsoever. All it does is that just makes the mob go away quicker. But you'll always be what they define you as. You'll always be what they paint you as. So, yeah, it's pretty... it's a bizarre situation. I had a bunch of tech journalists reach out to me and ask do you want us to tell the story about what happened? Can we interview you about it? But just for the sake of getting the content ban lifted, which I said, it's not about my job. I resigned from my job. It's not about YouTube money. We don't make any YouTube money. It's about getting information out to the community. That's what it's about. So I said no, but I had plenty of people that were willing to fucking, raise the standard bearer. It's not like Reddit has a lot of friends, in the tech world. There are people that are willing to challenge Reddit and talk about the flaws in their model. But I didn't do that either. I didn't go on any fucking PR offensive or anything. They told me if you keep it cool for fucking 3 months and you don't say anything about it, we'll review your ban and likely we'll lift the ban. And here we are, and it's been a lot longer than 3 months. So I do not understand it, and I'd like the League of Legends community to not even to have my content forced down their throat per se, but I would like them to at least have the option to choose whether or not it's front page worthy. I think that's fair, So there you go. That's all there is to it, really, mate. That's the update. But I guess we'll wait and see where it goes.
Probably.
So anyway,
nowhere.
Probably nowhere. But yeah, just back to the Patreon stuff. I don't know when we're going to do First Blood. We are going to do one this month. Like I say, it'll be a catch-up show. Me, Ram, and Nintendude. First guest for the show after that is going to be Black Enola. That's going to be fucking awesome. Me and Black Enola doing a show together.
Can't wait.
A champion has been slain.
A show has been slain.
I think that's going to be great. Don't you? I'm really looking forward to that.
Damn it, waiting for it.
Yeah, you don't sound too convinced, though. But yeah, so I spoke to Black and Ola, and obviously, we've sniped at each other on stream before. But I said, like, let's just do a show and see how it goes. Like, let's just do it, man. So I'm really fucking psyched about that.
It's a good idea. Call the show Dog Fuckery.
Yeah. No, I think we should call it A Champion Has Been Slain. No, I mean, like, because here's the thing, like, I'm interested to see what he says about some, certain questions. I have no idea how closely he follows the competitive scene. I think it could be an interesting show. It was like, you remember how the Sky Williams one went? It was a fucking shit show, and it was brilliant. I fucking love it.
I loved every minute of it, especially when I broke Broken Shot down to a pulp.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I love, So
you saw the moment his heart broke.
So. It could go any which way, and that's what I like. I like the idea of having a show that's just a little bit chaotic and a little bit scatshot, because that's what League of Legends doesn't have. It's all polish and, like, here's our version of banter on whatever that fucking show's called. What's it they do? I can't remember. Tia Griffin. Their shit show. Primetime League.
Tia Griffin.
Yeah.
What is that the one?
Family Guy, mate. Anyway,
yeah, I know what Peter Griffin is.
let's just end the show, and I think we'll get Neil back on. So
Neil.
Yeah, we'll do a Neil. But thanks to everyone who watched. Thanks to, of course, all the guests that came on. Thanks to the very special guest of Charles Bronson. Thanks to my floating head for keeping Bronson's Johnson away from the audience.
That was a real skill, man.
Oh, mate, well done. It just goes to show, mate, when it comes to, following Dick, there's no one better than you. Thanks to Sam for producing the show. High values, as always. Thanks to the Marriott Hotel in San Francisco for hosting this show. And, of course, thanks to all of you for watching, especially as there was a final going on. I know it wasn't ideal. If you're watching the VOD, thanks for choosing to click on it. And, of course, thanks to all the Patreon supporters. We do promise for the next show, we're going to have a credit sequence with all of the contributors' names on it, as we promised. That'll be up there and running. So thanks to everyone for the support. And let's just see this time if Neil actually helps him. See you next time.
Clayton O'Gorman, that rings a bell. I can't think where. Are you local, are you, Clayton?
From Chester.
So what dragged you down this neck of the woods?
Girlfriend.
You
see he's getting cold.
You what?
You see he's getting cold.
We'll just take some details. All right.
No.
I'm going to search and then I'm going to give you a copy of the search record. Do you understand?
No.
Right. Have you got anything on you shouldn't have before searcher?
Neil, help me! Neil, help me, Neil! Neil, just 2 minutes, man! 2 minutes, Neil, help me! Help me! Neil, help me! Help me, Neil! Please! Stay back! Neil! Please, Neil! Neil! Please, Neil! Stay where you are! Neil, give us a hand! Neil, please! Neil, help me! Neil, help me! Neil, help me! Neil, help me now!
Say out for assistance. Milltown Road. X-ray Alpha, assistance, Milltown Road.
Please, gas, the back!
Nice one, Jason. X-ray Alpha, can we have assistance?